Well, hello and welcome to the Lockhart Radio Podcast. I am your host, Felicia Lockhart, and it's great to see everyone. It's great to see you. Tonight we have a very special guest, and I am really happy because I see him quite often online, and I'm always hitting the hearts and hitting the likes and all that good stuff. Taylor Durden. Now, all of his social media is down below in the description. And so I want everybody to get the opportunity to go there and click and visit all of his sites, subscribe to all of his sites. This is somebody that to me is a trailblazer. And I say that because there's not a lot of people out here anymore who are um, really eager to get out and tell the truth or to get out and say what they need to say. And there are some that do get out, but they don't have their zeal attached with history and knowledge and wisdom. And that's what you have to get when you get anything. You have to really get understanding. Um, Mr. Durden, welcome to the Lockhart Radio Podcast. I appreciate you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Felicia. And thank you to all the folks that are watching this or catching this later. And yeah, thank you for sharing me with them.
Well, I think it's great to share good people with good people. All of the folks that hang out with me here in YouTube land, uh, they're all good people. Everybody here is good people. They have good, comments. I like the fact that some of them give some pushback sometimes because to me, that's healthy. That's a healthy debate. That's a healthy conversation because with conversations, you can all come to the table of agreement and figure out what's what and then say that aha moment. And that's what your channels and the work that you put out do. You hung out not long ago with a gentleman that I support and follow and have followed, and that was UB News. And I was so ecstatic to see that live that you guys put together. I've invited him a couple of times, and I had not really, honed in and said, "Okay, come now," with all the stuff that's gone on with me over the last year. But let's just say that that was one of the best podcasts that I have seen in a long time. So you guys did a great job on that one.
Yeah, no, I'm glad he answered. I'm glad he answered me because he had no real reason to. I had been asking for like well over a year, honestly. But it wasn't like I was hounding him. But I would be every now and then. I'd be like, "Hey, man, you got 30 minutes," you know. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny, man. Like funny how it all played out like that. And I think, you know, it just was the right time for it to all click up because like I feel like right after that, I started really doing the reels every day and everything.
So it sort of sparked you a little bit, gave you that little spark.
Yeah, I had made the commitment in my mind, but I hadn't, I'd only done like a couple reels by that point, and then yeah, like I stayed up all night, man, because I was in I went from California to Jersey at that time because it was like early January, and I was there from the holidays, and my sleep schedule was ruined because I'm 3 hours back. So I was staying up late and then people would get up early. So then I ended up not really getting any sleep. And I remember just pulling an all-nighter that night doing like, I think my second reel ever. But he was like, "Y'all got time now?" And I was like, "Wow, man, I'm not gonna miss this." I don't know if you can see it I'm trying to like, I'm not like exhausted. I don't know. I've definitely been more tired in my life, but I'm definitely like kind of not at my best. I'm just trying to focus. Like, let me make sure I don't miss anything here because I'm feeling this fact. It's been 48 hours. I ain't slept. So, I mean,
Yeah.
but I'm glad. I mean, I think that was the first like week or two of it. I might have slept like 15 hours. I feel like I slept like an
Wow.
hour and a half, 2 hours. I was just so like doing the next thing and setting up for the next video. So I feel like it was almost like perfect. Everything. And I guess the way the time allotted to have me to allow me to have some space to do it, and then linking up with him and everything, that was all pretty perfect the way it played out, man. So it only
Oh,
reinforced
man.
like that this is all on course.
It's all on course. It really honestly is. And I'm going to say this because a very good friend of mine who always comes to the channel, and he's actually a staple, especially on my smaller channel, it's the Lockhart Perspective and Lockhart Perspective Headlines with a Voice. On the Lockhart Perspective, Ronnie Mann is a good friend of mine and is like a brother to me. And for years, he and I have been hammering out topics and conversations and things that people were deeming very controversial. And sometimes at that moment, we felt that maybe some of the information we were giving out was ahead of its time, or maybe it wasn't time. But now everything that we were saying then, we're seeing now that others in the main in our forum, I should say, are now talking on that. Do you ever feel like sometimes some of the information that you have is ahead of its time? Do you ever feel like you want to reserve, or you don't want to put something out? Have you ever had that? And then if you have, what was the outcome of it? Did you go forward with it anyway?
Yeah, I definitely feel like I've heard that people say like it's not the it's not the leaders that change the people, it's the people that become ready, and then the leaders, are produced at that point. So I don't really, not to consider myself a leader in it. I'm just saying that like I think that the crowd became more primed for it as we've gone through, a bunch of events here, COVID and a bunch of, whatever, 9/11, all the things that happened over the past decades. I think it just primed people for that. And I definitely felt like I was ahead at different times. But at the same time, I couldn't articulate it well. Like you said, like as far as like people not having the zeal or not having the packaging right. I feel like at different times, I had the ingredients, but I wasn't articulating it in a way that it could be more broadly received. And I feel like now it all, to me, is all perfect the way it is now. Like I feel like I went through enough things and studied myself enough in the world enough, and it brought me to a place where I can better articulate it. And I got room for improvement, but I feel like if I would have blown up earlier with some of these topics, I would have gave opposition way more momentum in arguments.
Mm. And what would that have looked like?
I think I would have discredited some of these talking points because
Mhm.
I didn't have it. I kind of was like, all right, I see Z, but I haven't gone from A to Z. And I'm just like expressing Z, like, yeah, because like certain things were there, but like the divinity in the details, or the devil in the details, like that wasn't, I hadn't got that all down pat to explain it. Cause it's just like chess, when you play chess enough times, like certain moves that people make. If they move the pawn this way, that first move is showing you the ripple of all the other moves. So like you go through it enough times having these discussions with people, I think you see like, all right, this is their premise, and this is their vein of thinking, and that's the way that they're going to go with this argument. And you go through that enough times, you can kind of judo any of that. Like any argument people bring, you've gone through it so many times, and it's almost like it's just reflex at that point. It doesn't even become like I had to think or research anything for a lot of stuff. Like I'm definitely going to keep studying, but um, I just think that, yeah, like I would say things that are just broad statements, like, original these are black, or the original those are black, or this place was like this, or this place was here, or saying different things. And I feel like I knew it in my heart. I knew it in, within myself, almost like kind of like in like a spiritually autistic way. Like I knew it, but I couldn't transmit it like um in detail, you know?
Mhm.
So I think that detail really matters for people that are going to be skeptical, because you're coming from a whole different premise.
Do you feel like some of the conditioning that you put yourself physically through actually helped you receive? I call them downloads. When I get downloads, things that come to me that I know are a part of my spiritual makeup and my spiritual gifting, right? Do you ever feel like some of the work that you've done, the breath work that you've done, the whole shift in your diet, do you feel like those things help you receive more information? I don't want to sound weird to those who are listening, but this is a serious, real question. Do you believe that the health of the host makes the difference?
Yeah, I think the body as a vessel or a channel is critical. Like as far as like its condition is critical, as far as like the receptivity that you're gonna get from the source, or the signal, however you want to look at it. But um, 'cause I guess not even looking at it like from my personal experience. Yeah, I've definitely experienced that on a personal level, like removing, the process of elimination, removing certain things, and um, being alleviated of blockages through that process. But also just looking at people that were more gifted than me, and they were
Mm,
not doing certain practices and undoing certain things in themselves, and I could just see like the signals are there, the ingredients are there, and it's just not coming through. The clarity is just not there because the body is clouded. You know, it's an opaqueness in the
Mhm.
body there that's not allowing the signal to really fully express itself. And that really, I think that's kind of like one of the biggest motivating factors, you know, seeing people within my family that were more gifted than me and they just had so many blockages. A lot of them were, you know, self-inflicted. So I'm like, man, you know, if you were to, I almost felt like, I guess, like on some martyrdom type stuff where I was like, man, I
Mhm.
want to be twice as good or whatever. I want to go to a point where I have to be such a clear example that the people that I care about, it would become obvious to them, and then they would make the lifestyle transformation or whatever. But you can't live for people, so I mean, but
Mhm.
you know, I have done my best, I guess, so far.
Mhm. Mhm. You know, I hear you. I really do. And I know that it's important to take that time to do your own work. You know, your work, to make sure that your work is your best work. I said
Yeah,
3 things to say that one thing, but, you know, I mean, like when I shared with you about, you know, me being on this, you know, almost year hiatus, having lost my, you know, my dad, and then lost my stepmom who raised me back in
condolences.
October. I was just exhausted. I was totally exhausted. And in being exhausted, it took so much out of me, that exhaustion plus what the world was going through, and I had already seen it. You know what I mean? It's like I had already seen everything that we're dealing with now. I had already verbalized everything that we're dealing with now. I had already saw it. I said it, and sometimes I felt like I was throwing so much on the wall that I didn't know if any of it would stick, or if anybody would remember it, or if anybody cared. But I knew that at this particular time in my life, I had to stop doing everything. And I did. I had to literally just stop doing everything. One thing that intrigues me about you is your breath work. I want you to talk about that, because I sat there trying to hold my core in, and trying to hold my core and trying to make sure I was sitting a certain way and trying to make sure I was breathing correctly. And at the end of it, I realized I hadn't been breathing correctly at all.
For a long time.
Why is that important?
Um, it's the real your true nature can only really come through if you're in the likeness of the original breath, like the breath that you were taking when you were a baby, or when people were not so burdened by a toxic environment and dysfunctional settings. So the breath itself, man. I mean, I got into it at like 21 years old, and I saw instant transformation. I remember, working with the older guy that put me onto it. His name's Pharaoh, at Pharaoh's house. He I think he's like in his 80s now. He put me on to the literature to the meta netter at the time, and then it gave me the technique for breathing, and then from there it just sent me down the path of just like sharpening the technique. So at 21, I could see that it's harder than what somebody just tells you, like, hey, breathe for 60 minutes straight with this form. And a lot of people, I think they're just going to take that for granted. Like, oh, breathing, I can do it. It's nothing. It's just breathing. I just do it automatically. But I realized it then that, like, in a lot of ways, I had like a subtle rigor mortis in my body. Even though I was an athlete, I was, a full scholarship athlete, at the Division I level. Like, my body, the balance was not there. So I still had areas where the chi didn't flow through. So it was like rigor mortis. It was like parts of me that were dying and experiencing atrophy. And if I didn't get a hold of it, it was just going to get worse. So when I started doing breath work in the beginning, I mean, I could feel the weakness in these areas. Like, you could bench 300 pounds or whatever, squat this much weight or whatever, but then it comes time to really be still and do breath work. You really feel like all the little the minutia, as far as like the strength in this, in this abdomen region and in the diaphragm and the lower back, and hips even as part of it. So like that whole process let me know, like, man, there's definitely a weakness in my core here that otherwise, from outside looking in, nobody would ever tell me that this is a problem. Maybe I could go to a yoga teacher who maybe would have said something, but It, that really motivated me. So from there, it was just a process of like just allowing myself to breathe fully, because I could see that there was a lot inhibiting me, whether it be food in my bowels or just atrophy of the muscles and the fascia and everything just being constricted. I could see my posture suffering from over the years. I could see like, man, this I could do so much better, and I'm already experiencing really great effects from just small 15 to 20-minute sessions. Or I would commit myself to do like 100 straight breaths, 1 to 4 breaths per minute. Those are like my early commitments into it, and I could just see the transformation, and I felt like it really created a huge gap between me and other people, in a sense, because I felt like nobody really around me was practicing in this way. I felt like either they didn't have the time, or they didn't, for whatever one reason or another, nobody was into it, and I just felt like it was opening up my psyche, or my being in every way, to where I could really unlock. And I wanted to share it so much that I just was like, man, I got to get better and better at this, so I can actually be a clear pattern.
That's really cool. I want to shift just a little bit, because there was a very unique video that you did, and it was on the periodic table. And you juxtaposed, actually, you clarified something that I was like, OMG. Would you mind if I show that right quick? And then I'd like for you to dive in. Do you mind?
Sure, go right ahead.
Okay, let's dive in, because I was like, wait a minute, what? What? You broke it down and I appreciated it. Here you go.
The Bible is the periodic table. Look, 7 days of creation in Genesis, 7 periods of elements on the periodic table. Starting with hydrogen and progressing to the other 93 natural elements, we see the pattern of creation. Through the fusion process, we see the family tree of elements branch out into a total of 8 families: alkali, alkaline earth metals, transition metals, post-transition metals, metalloids, halogens, noble metals, and noble gases. As you can see, there are elemental families on the periodic table. From the breath or plasma, God or the Creator initiates creation. Ionized hydrogen or plasma is the basis of all creation. It is the first element. Water is H2O, or 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. In Hebrew, it is ma'im, or mem yod mem, the same as H2O. Mem yod mem, 2 M's and a yod. 2 hydrogen atoms, or mems, and 1 oxygen, yod. This is why in Paleo Hebrew, mem looks like waves of water, and God separates the waters above from the waters below. Shamayim means heaven, or waters above. Shamayim. When hydrogen collides with itself, it creates helium and light. This is the let there be light moment. The breath or plasma creates light. So we get Adam and Eve, and we get hydrogen and helium. Water always signifies transformation. 40 weeks in the womb, 40 days of rain for the great flood, 40 days of fasting for Moses and the Christ, etc., etc. This is expressed in the 40 transition metals on the periodic table. So after the flood transition, 8 people come out of the ark. That is why the second period on the periodic table has 8 elements. Then a new period or family is born when Jacob has 4 wives and 12 sons, and also 1 daughter. This makes 18 people. There are 18 elements in the next level of the periodic table. These different families come at different times, and as you know, times are also elements. Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, etc. Each age might be indicative of a reset. There are anywhere from 89 to 94 natural elements, and then we get into synthetic elements. These elements are unstable. So there was a series of natural production of humans or man, and then we reach mankind, where we reach synthetic man, unstable creatures. Hydrofusion produces helium, helium fusion produces carbon, carbon fusion produces oxygen, oxygen fusion produces silicon, silicon fusion produces iron. Iron fusion produces no output of energy. Iron is such a densely bound element that its fusion only causes collapse or implosion. This is how stars implode into supernovas. Supernovas either become black holes or neutron stars. Neutron stars produce gamma rays, which are toxic. And then we get the production of more dense elements such as gold and platinum. These elements have a greater sense of gravity, a greater attachment. The attached are the programs or infinite beings, and the eternal are those that are souls, similar to this train man seen in the Matrix. Iron and clay may intermingle, but they will never truly mix. Daniel 2:43. An atomic bond is between two metals that are equally yoked. An ionic bond is between a metal and a nonmetal. Salt is a product of an ionic bond. That is why salt constantly absorbs. It energetically gravitates towards what it's missing. Nonpolar atomic bonds are stable. This is chemical affinity. Ionic and unstable bonds are just people breeding with programs, souls breeding with programs. Marriage or union is supposed to be a covalent bond. If you learn Hebrew, you learn chemistry because they are one and the same. Each letter is an element, and each letter is also a shape, so every letter is geometrical. This is holistic learning. Whereas in English, you have to learn English and then you have to learn chemistry in English. Whereas if you learn Hebrew, you're also learning chemistry at the same time, as well as geometry and so on.
Mm.
The adversary wants to create without the creator, and that's where we get chimeric, soulless vessels. These are the artificially intelligent, the organic AI. The adversarial program is using them as a medium, and when souls breed with them, they bind themselves to this matrix. RH negatives are programs or daemons, also known as fallen angels, and RH positives are souls. There has been so much colonization to where even the dreams are colonized at this point. Memories are being mistaken as dreams, and that continues the parasite loop. The recessive daemon DNA has now become widespread. You may not be RH negative, but maybe your great-grandfather or their grandfather. This is the loop that the Bible describes and the periodic table expresses. 1,000 years of progress or a golden age, and then you have 1,000 years of decline, and you have another reset. And the parasite goes into the recesses only to come out once more. Remnants make it through each reset, but in order to break the loop, there needs to be a critical mass of aboriginals that have realized themselves and taken their birthright.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
I was
Wow.
moving a lot slower then.
Man, that
It's
was
actually
really good.
yeah. No, I do. Yeah, I do like that. I enjoyed making that one the most. I feel like because I really wanted to share that one. I really feel like as far as there's so much I wrote a whole book about just the periodic table and how it coincides with the Bible and the whole. And I feel like that it just I enjoyed that. And I know no one really cares. You know, that's the only thing. Nobody really cares about chemistry like that. But I feel like I get excited about a conversation like that. It was hard for me to break up with this one girl because she was good at chemistry. I was like, man, I could talk to you about this. I don't know. Who could I, you know?
I think I might be able to deal with the inadequacies.
Yeah.
You might be able to hang around a little longer, baby.
Yeah. It's tough.
It was real rough. Wow. Yeah, that right there. I was stoked when I saw that. I really was. I was like, oh man, I watched it again. And then I watched it again. And then I paused it. And then I watched it again. I love those kinds of things because to me, it just seems to clarify so many things. You know, like I love when we talk about goodness gracious, the Christ, the oil that goes down the body and the spine from the head down the spine and does all these great things. And it's once a month and all these, and it's I believe it's once a month at a specific time frame, and you have to make sure that X, Y, or Z is done. Although I'm not really I'm not really in tune personally yet to how that whole thing flows. I just know that it intrigues me because there's so many things that we don't know, and I believe that once we open our minds to receive information and to look at it, I love when you go look. When we open up our mind and allow ourselves to receive information, it helps us and it answers so many of the quiet things that we've thought to ourselves. You know what I mean? There are so many quiet thoughts that we have that we get a little intimidated and we don't want to share with others. But sometimes when we listen to information, some of that stuff answers the quiet questions. Do you ever feel like that? Those
Yeah.
aha moments?
Yeah, and I just think that breath work is just like kind of like cleaning your room, like your room of thoughts or your metaphysical room. I feel like it slows everything down. You know, everything just needs to be slowed down. Like it's so much, the nervous system is so stressed from this environment and just from the day-to-day, pressure. So I think that if you just take the time to really do some breath work and prioritize it in your life, to put the air element first before food and water and and everything, I feel like that's you're just organizing. literally organizing your organs. Like it's really just everything. It's almost like the Tetris happens on itself as far as your thoughts, like, and as far as whatever your projects are. Like the more you do breath work, the more you're going to prioritize your life correctly. And I just think, for a lot of people, they won't do it because it's going to mean letting go of certain things that they prioritize. Like they put the bottom of the pyramid on the top, and you got to let it go. You got to rearrange and go through the process of elimination. And breath work makes that happen. And it's like people don't want to wake up. A lot of it is just like, nah, let me just turn the alarm off and stay down. And if they were to wake up, they know they'd have to let go of certain things, and they'd be stronger, and then they would get more responsibility, and then it'd be more challenged, and it's like never ending. So I think a lot of people kind of recognize that and don't want to go that way.
Let's take a look at some breath work. Let's look at this because this is an older video, but it says so much. And I want to play it, and I'll stop it and you can talk to us as we go. Is that all right with you?
Sure.
All right. Like, because the whole thing, like I said, like it's pushing on the tissue. Like the herbs push on the tissue. And when you do this, every time you exhale, you want to push on the tissue and massage the intestines, push on your liver and gallbladder and pancreas. And you're pushing all up into the liver, gallbladder, and pancreas a little bit. But you want to be gentle.
Right.
And then, but still it's like a massage every time on every exhale. Because when you suck in from the diaphragmatic breathing, you want to get to like the edge of this to where like it's right there in your perineum to where it's like
I sort of want everybody to join in the way you're explaining it, because that's what I was doing. I was like scooting all the way down, and I was, as a public speaker, as a vocalist, these are the things that you grew up not knowing, but exercising to an extent, because you go so deep here that, like I said, I knew I was breathing incorrectly. Everybody that want to try, go ahead on, get on down with your best self. Go ahead, y'all. Go ahead, Charlie. Here we are.
I mean, right there sitting perfectly. I guess tailbone right there to where you see. I guess where I'm at, just the edge of it. You're kind of at the edge of the chair, so you just
and you're sitting up straight too, right?
Get the posture straight to where you get the arch in your small in your back, and then you can have the pressure from your bottom, and keep the good pressure here, and then you can have a good pressure in the roof of your mouth with your tongue.
Okay,
so when you
gotcha.
Inhale, because you're inhaling and you expand the belly on the inhale. Like that's on your inhales. The inhale should be more like this or bigger. You're pushing the belly out as far as possible to get the lower lungs as much air as possible, so that because that's where all the blood is. From supposed gravity or whatever. The blood is at the bottom of the lungs right now because it's just sinking to the bottom of the lungs. So if you don't expand the diaphragm, then the lower lungs never expand, and then all that blood doesn't get oxygenated or doesn't get enriched with air like it would to circulate through the system, to feed the muscles, to feed the brain, to feed everything. And the blood is what circulates the minerals. So you have to have the blood. This is basically attaching the light in the air or the prana or whatever you want to call this energy or chi to the breath, so you can attach it to the blood, so that the blood can be enriched enough to where the body is healing fast and doing all its processes faster. So it's all about the rhythm of the breathing, and that controls the heart rate. Slower heart rate, you live longer. It's just longevity. So this is going into the parasympathetic nervous system where all the healing takes place. And so if you go to this point every day, at least at some point, it's like a reset button. You're going back into that reset. So it's just you're pushing every time on the exhale. So on your exhales, it'll be like this. So this is one breath. This is one single diaphragmatic breath. It'll be like.
Okay, tell us what's going on right there.
The pressure, just trying to keep the pressure as best you can, so you can have the pressure from, your abdomen as you push out, and then you have the pressure from beneath, like because you're locking like the breath in a sense. So you're inhaling fully as much as you can, and you have the abdominal pressure, but then you also get the underneath pressure, like the same. You're supposed to apply a lock, or people call it a banda, and it's it's the same pressure that you would apply if you were to stop urinating midstream.
Mm-hmm.
So you apply that pressure, and then so you're locking from the bottom, and then from the top you're applying the tongue to the roof of the mouth as far back as you can go, because the pituitary sits right on the top of the roof of the mouth, and if you stimulate the pituitary, it in turn pushes on the pineal, so then you get that whole midbrain going.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just applying that pressure, and then it just enhances the craniosacral rhythm, like you were talking about earlier, as far as like up and down the spine.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a greater pressure. It's no like lag in your pressure. There's no like leak if you have that pressure there from your whole system in a not in the hardest clinch, but it's enough of a clinch to where everything is just flowing better. So you just have your blood pressure is better, your craniosacral rhythm pressure is better, and so the circulation from the root of your spine to your brain is just greater, and then your circulation from your heart to your extremities is greater. So you keep doing that, you apply that pressure over and over again for 20-30 minutes, your body's going to heat up so much, you're going to burn off toxins, you're going to increase your digestion, you're going to rapidly digest things, and then your clarity, because you're getting so much more circulation to your brain. So your core is basically getting more and more circulation, instead of when you're in a sympathetic, if you've been breathing shallow, all day or for a period, unconsciously taking like unconscious pants, like little quick pants that people don't really, they don't know that they're breathing that way. So, but the body will automatically breathe. But if you, actively participate in it, then you get the most of it. And it's like waste not, want not type thing. So then when you have that increased circulation and that pressure, then your core is getting the blood like it's supposed to. Your brain, your central nervous system, your organs, instead of if you're in a sympathetic nervous system, if you're in the fight or flight, your blood might be in disarray throughout your system. It might be, you might have different tension in your system. Like when you start to do breath work, you can realize like, man, I've been holding tension wherever, in my abdomen, in my legs, my back, my shoulders. I got tension in these spots, and you can release that, and then you can circulate back to the core and heal your organs and nourish your brain and central nervous system. And I think really in a lot of ways, you kind of, not that you become a new person, but you become who you were supposed to be, who you were designed to be. I think more and more, become more yourself.
And now when you say become a new person, I think of that as in how the body rejuvenates itself every 7 years. So you basically get a new X, Y, or Z every 7 years. But I think for me, when I think about breathing, it's almost like when you're young and you're a child, you breathe without any issue. You know what I mean? You're running, you're playing. It's totally different. And as you get older, I don't know where we do we get caught up in the hustle and bustle. What is it? What are we doing? Why are we? Where do we go wrong? Where do we learn not to breathe? If I can ask like that.
Yeah, no, I mean it's the traumas, whether they be emotional, just having just habitual stress on the system in different ways, and then your circadian rhythm getting thrown off, and then obviously blunt traumas. Repeated emotional trauma is just it's really not much different than your response to it is not much different than a blunt trauma. If somebody is stressing you out, emotionally, or if you're in a condition where you have to stress yourself out just to get along, that is going to make you forget the breath more and more. You're going to breathe more shallow. You're going to get out of alignment with yourself, because you're, essentially sacrificing your eternity, your connection to eternity, the breath, with, or for, the temporal, whatever it is that you're going along to get along with right now, and as the years go on, as a kid, you're not really trying to conform to anything. You're just being yourself, and you, depending on how you were born, if you were born naturally, if you didn't get circumcised, if you didn't get vaccines, I mean, you were probably breathing so much better than a lot of people. But for those of us that were, that already isn't, something that's impeding our breath, because, that's a trauma that creates a dissociation from the body, because it's an immense pain and trauma that the body just has to kind of dissociate from just to get by as a baby, because it's in a vulnerable state. And then you go from that to whatever whatever happens in school, whatever occurs from in your household, and maybe religion, all of those things that might be reinforced that are just stressing you out and, abusing you emotionally and physically. And then on top of it, you might have actual physical blunt traumas that come on later, whatever happens from, you might be in a hostile environment or a car accident or something.
So the
All of that.
constant fight or flight is also attributing to that.
Yeah. And so you never really get back on course with the breath that you were taking when you were a baby, when you were an infant, because that's how infants breathe. They breathe from the diaphragm. They apply that pressure. You see them doing it. It's just,
Yeah.
they just, they don't have to be told to do it. Nobody does. And then, we can kind of forget it over the time because there's just a lot of separation, a lot of conditioning. And I think we get distracted from our own breath.
I want to talk right quick about if you're, being where you were raised, the, the whole athletics portion that you shared with me. I want people to get to know before we get into some good questions, because I'm going to ask about the reset. I got to ask about the reset. I've got to ask you about the different resets. That's just a given. But before we do that, I want you to take a second and just share with everybody what you've shared with me as it relates to, I want to know about your family, if you're willing to share that, New
Yeah.
Jersey and all that. So go right ahead.
Yeah. And I was born and raised in New Jersey. My mom's family is so-called Black. I don't know any other family.
Oh, wait a minute. I got to come back on the screen for that one. All right. No, you didn't. Okay, your mama Nim is so-called Black. So your mama Nim look like me.
My mom is light skinned. All her brothers and sisters are brown skinned. They look like you or dark.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay,
Yeah.
so your mama Nim. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. Now, yeah. So I mean, um, it's not an ideal becoming, I guess you could say. Like, my grandmother was under immense pressure, and she was supposedly forced into prostitution when she was like 13, and so she had my mom at like 19 from a trick, and then my mom ended up getting shot later in her life because somebody was shooting at my uncles, and she had already had my brother, and my brother's dad is, he's a dark-skinned man, and so my mom, she got shot in front of my grandma's house, and she couldn't walk. They were telling her she might never walk again, and she was broke. She had just left my brother's dad, and my brother was like 5, I think, at the time or something, and so she just really needed security, and she was in rehab, and she met my pops, and she pushed up on him to pretty much get security in her life, and he never had attention from a woman. I think in a lot of ways she kind of knew that she could get that, so because he doesn't look like the guy that's getting that kind of attention, so she knew that, I guess, that she could work that, and so he helped her walk again, and then she they ended up being together, and so I came into existence, and it's not like, I don't know, it's just funny, like my experience, as far as like growing up, I don't know my dad's family, I don't really know. I'm the whitest person I know. I guess I know my dad, but I don't really know him like that, but so like it's not like on an emotional level or nothing. Like, he's around.
Right.
I met him, we spent time, but I don't really know him. Like, I know my mom's family, I know my uncles and cousins on that side. I only know them brown skinned and dark skinned people. I didn't, all her brothers and sisters is dark skinned. So like I never had a cousin. I never really knew nothing else. So I was always the odd man out, and but that was my experience, that's who showed me love. That's who was the only people that gave me any real attention and like pushback as well, tough love. And so that's who I felt like I was riding for in my lifetime. It wasn't like, I wasn't like fighting for Black people at large. I felt like I never could even bear that. That wasn't really for me. I felt like I'm not like gonna be the face of Black people. So like but I felt like, this is me and mine, and
Yeah.
I want to do the best I can do in my lifetime so we can have a better life. And these are the people that show me love. So that heavily influenced my experience. And then at the same time, it wasn't like the white part of me was throwing the football 75 yards and, benching 315. It was not like that. That was not
Yeah.
coming. That was the melanin seeping through. There was not. There was, well, my father's family was not giving me any of that. I wasn't. I'm six. You know what I mean? I'm 6'5". My dad's family, there's no one over 6 foot in his family. So like I'm like all my mom's brothers, like as far as the build, and so they were, and she's older than them, so they were almost like big brothers to me. So like, because she like basically kind of raised them. She was the second born, but she was a girl, so I guess she was just in the house more and raised them. So they were like older brothers in a lot of sense, and they were athletes. And my brother was an athlete. His dad's dark skinned. His dad was kind of like more like vicariously my dad than my actual pops, and like, so I got a lot through osmosis. I got a lot just, and my own body could respond in certain circumstances because I did have some melanin to work with. So like, when I heard things, like when I heard Sebi and Dr. Africa talking when I was like 18, I was like, this all checks out. This all makes total sense. Why? You know what I mean? Like, I'm already distrusting of the government, and everything. My mom was already like, the tiny hats are not who they say they are, and all of that, like thoroughly in my upbringing, because she felt like she had to deal with white people out of necessity, not out of what she wanted to do. You know what I mean? So so she was always like combative and like questioning the narratives and never really ever, if it made me really polarized in a lot of ways, because mama, if I did something wrong, if I was ever being like uppity or nothing, she'd be like, that's that white shit, And so I never, everything I did was because of color. Everything in my life. You dunked the basketball is because you black. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You're being bougie is because you white. So it's like damn. Everything I'm doing is because color. And so, but it did give me a framework. A lot of it is true, as much as it's stereotypes. A lot of it is true, hundreds of years.
I think that that's been proven, scientifically. They've talked a lot about those type of things. There's even a clip going around now where, and I forget, I think it's two coaches, and one is talking about, encourage the melanin in your players. There's something, two old guys. And I was like, oh, wow. He was like something about the melanin and just let them get the sun, let them get their melanin or something like that. And I was like, oh, what the world are they talking about? But I think that there are honestly some, listen, human beings, which not all of the people that are walking around the earth, and my impression, everybody knows I feel this way. Not every person you think is a person is a person. Not every being you see is a person. But those who have specific, that are from specific places, have specific traits that rock with them. And that's what I believe. I believe that for every house, there's something that, they got it. They just got it. These people got it over here. These people got it over here. And it's based on where they're from. It's based on the DNA. It's based on, the mitochondrial DNA, what your mama and them had, passing that down. And now we know who you are because of your mama. I believe that each individual group does have attributes that are specific to them. How about that? That's what I think. And I think it's hilarious that you said what you said, because that's so true. But you said the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't say it out loud.
Yeah. At the same time though, like any intelligence I've been gifted in my life is still also coming from the melanin. So it's like, it's not like I'm not getting like exceptional brightness from the pale side either. It's not like, I think my dad's not the dumbest guy, you know what I mean? But I definitely, my brother's dad was a lot more sharp, and I felt like that contrast being so close always forced me to see things differently, as much as I care about my dad and I want what's best for him. It's like, I got to dwell in reality. I still feel like every people has a warrior class, pastor class or clergy level, whatever you want to say. And they all got their like scientist and scholar level. I think every people has that,
Absolutely.
whether you dark or light or whatever, you're not going to put like Spike Lee on the front lines. You know what I mean? You're not gonna, you know what I'm saying? He's not, you know,
I
we love
certainly
Spike.
hope not.
we, we love
Not in
Spike,
an
but I'm
attempt
like,
to win any war.
yeah, no, you know, certain people as thinkers and scholars, and so, you know,
Put them
it's
where
a,
they're supposed to be.
yeah. So I think for sure, like I don't know, like it's a lot of stuff though. I mean, it's the way I know things are funny. The way it has come to me, like, um, as far as like who's really genetically a slave
Mm.
and or a
Mm.
servant, a servant, however you want people to, you know, look
Right.
at that, you
However
know,
makes people feel comfortable.
yeah, you know, but like, um, it's just the same way like Chihuahuas are designed a certain way. I don't want to reduce people to dogs, but at the
Well,
same
I
time,
mean,
man,
a
at the same
Rottweiler and
time,
a Chihuahua are different.
yeah, and they do what they do really well. Chihuahuas are for rats and mice and, you know, rodents. They get rid of them. They're hardwired to do that, and it's, you know, that's necessary if you got that issue. It's a
Hmm.
functional thing that you can have the dog for. But
Right.
like it's the same thing with people. Like when I look at my dad, um, he was genetically more a slave, you know, a servant. He was somebody that would just go to work every day mindlessly and not. My mom was like, she was always an artisan. Like she was like, man, I'm only doing this because I don't want to rob banks and shit. You know, like, like so, like, you know, like that was it. You know, so that I could tell like her whole life was like, I really would rather be painting and making dresses and stuff like that. And
Right, right,
you know,
right.
I don't want to do this. And my dad, I felt like he never had those aspirations. That just wasn't built in him. He was just designed to be a serf. And I feel like in a lot of ways he doesn't have a problem with it. You know, like I think like a German Shepherd is a good guard dog. You know, it is what it is. It's gonna go put itself in a line of fire and, you know, protect you and do the things that guard dogs do. But like, so it's almost like a pig in shit. Like it's just what it wants to do. So let it do what it's designed for. And like, so I recognize inside myself like slave tendencies, you know, like serfdom type of thinking. And
I'll just be safe over here, 8 to 5. This is where you can find me every day for 30 years. And when I'm
yeah,
done, I'll get a watch. They'll be happy that I was a part of it. And
yeah,
hopefully my pension will still be there. But the one thing I know is consistency.
yeah, you know. And I guess if that's what they're okay with, then you know, I don't think it's just like, what are they doing? You know, I guess if you have a slave class or a serf class, like, you know, if they're working for like the collective in a positive way or a way that, you know, promotes real growth, I don't see a problem with having, you know, servants, you know, if they are okay with it, you know what I mean? Because a lot of times that they're okay with it, I think it's the vanity and people in their mind thinking that they would want to be doing something else. But you look at it like, man, like, because I think that's the thing that bothers people when you talk about like the leadership, who needs to be in positions of leadership. I think a lot of times they'll be like, you know, not wanting to do it, like to restore the order because they don't identify with who would be in the leadership. But it's like, man, you're not designed for that. We're all gonna keep living worse if you're the ones at the helm, and you're already paying into, as a vassal, paying into an empire. You might as well make, you know, the empire run correctly. You know, so
Mhm.
I think that, you know, a lot of it is that like people have ideas in their heads that compete with reality, and they need to just let that shit go. Like, you know,
Mhm.
if you are, because that's the thing, everybody thinks the grass is greener. Like, yeah, if, you know, you be in this leadership position, you're designed for that, you're gonna have immense pressure. You know, obviously at some point even the people designed for it drop the ball themselves, like, because
Yes.
no one's above like pride. You know, that challenge is coming. So like, you're not gonna go your whole life without being challenged by pride and lust and vanity. So like, no matter who you are. So it's like anybody can drop the ball no matter what bloodline or skin color they are. So it's not like just because you're a serf and this person's a leader that what you do isn't important, or that you're, you know, like the grass is greener. It's like they're being challenged equal to their potential, just like, you know, you. And if everybody works together, then the slaves, like right now, we all kind of living like slaves because slaves control so much.
Oh, time. You know what? Exponentially to the 10th power. And here's what I believe, it's like a rat or a hamster on that wheel. You go to work so that you can pay for your house, pay for your car, pay for your insurance, pay for your food. But then you have to go home when you come from work. You get the rest that you need so that you can again tomorrow go back to work and then you're going to pay for your internet, you're going to pay for the gas in the car. um, you're going every single thing that we do here in this realm, in this place, is slavery. And here's the thing: when we were 5 6 years ago, I made a comment, and I know Charlie may or may not remember this. But I made a comment, and I was like, that I believe that the conversation of slavery was a test pilot to see how everybody would function if they were told X. And now everybody is a slave. Back then, their conversation of slavery, all right, was, do this, don't do this, and do this, and then you're going to be rewarded, and this is what's going to happen. That was a test pilot. And even the conversation, even the part that was not true, the conversation was a part to get everybody's mindset under compliance. Just everybody just comply. If you just comply, there won't be any problem. Well, just show them your ID. It won't be a problem. Well, just answer their questions. It won't be a problem. Just forget about all of your rights. Just do what they say and you won't have a problem. And that's the problem.
Yep.
Now, everybody is a slave.
Yeah.
And the reversal of who was the slaves back then were told in a certain way, so that way they could subdue the masses with the lies that they told and make everybody think that it's us that's the problem, that we needed freeing, that we had the issue, when it was just a ploy to get the division. And that division is what got everybody caught up now. If everybody had stayed on the alert and just kept side eyeing everything, just side eye everything, I don't think we'd have as much problem. But
Yeah.
that's what it is. And that's what I think. I think that because they've decided to give us so much divisiveness in the news and the media and everywhere, people actually think that somebody's better than the other person. Now, to your point with regards to the whole, melanin portion helping you, jump a little higher when you're going up for that little layup or whatever. Yeah, we do know those things are true. Those things, but then there are the anomalies, because there's the Larry Birds of the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was my boy. Danny Ainge and all of them. Those in Boston. That was my team, and everybody who knows me know it from way back. So there are those anomalies, but I think that on in the grand scheme of things, the problem is that we are all now slaves because of the necessities and because of the great American, quote unquote, great American dream that we've all been told. We are literally chasing the funeral home. We're literally running after the funeral home in order for us to have the quote unquote great American dream. And now we all see that that was just a pipe dream. It's not real. It doesn't exist. All of these things that we think are important are not important. What we think is important are the things that we're chasing, but those are not the things that we can live without a car. You cannot live without breath. You cannot live without air. We can live without a house. And I'm going to tell you something. They just made living homeless in certain areas illegal. But those cats was on to something. With the exception of having to fight at night to prevent people from taking their shopping cart or their little makeshift house. Those cats was on to something, because they don't got nobody running after them. They got cell phones. They got,
Yeah.
I'm not idolizing you guys. Y'all who know me know. I'm not idolizing any of that stuff. What I'm saying is these folks had it going on for years, and some elected not to deal with the government. And I'm not saying that I want to be sleeping under no bridge, but I'm trying to say, aha, not everybody people think is crazy. It's crazy. Don't be dismissive. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Anthony Van Zandt, hello. It's so good to see you. It's good to see you. And Charlie, I know I already spoke with you. Everybody that is here, I want to thank you guys. It's going to take us a second to get back into the algorithm. And with that in mind, I'd like to know if everybody has already hit that like button, because the misnomer is that's supposed to help.
Yeah.
So hit the
Yeah.
button. What say you there, Tao?
Yeah. No, I mean, I just think that if we were in an advanced civilization, if there's actual order, the slaves would be living really better than we live now.
Mm-hmm.
So like I mean that's the only way that you can really have the situation that unfolded. Like you wouldn't have recessive slaves in the field, doing that type of labor. They would be doing monotonous labor, but it would not be like the rendition of what we're, the depictions of slavery that we've been told as far as like, field slaves are like this and they do that. You're talking about an advanced civilization. A slave is probably just going to be somebody doing coding and stuff like that or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
working. You know what I mean? So it's not going to be, it's a totally different life, or standard of living. And so I think people get it made up in their heads like, man, like, oh, I don't want to be like, if you're talking about slave, like biblically back then, I think it was greater advancements in technology. And I think the slaves were living well and had way more autonomy than us. They probably could bond out, they probably, you be a slave till you're 40 and then you're like, I'm buying this property. And a lot of people won't even never get to the other side of paying off their house. So it's like,
and then even when you own a home, you're still paying taxes. You own the home. If you're lucky, you own the home and the land, and then you're still paying taxes on what you've already purchased, which to me is like that in and of itself should be illegal. And I mean, I look at I show Speed went out of the country. He went to the continent of Africa. I think he was there for like 30 some odd days. And I looked at how these people had a home. I think one guy says, yeah, my mom, my dad, or whomever built this and it's theirs. And they don't have to pay for it anymore. And yeah, it may have been, a little a hut. But the point is, it was their hut. Nobody else owned the hut or had to come and say, give us money or we're going to take the hut, as if they had given it to them. Those are the things that I dislike greatly about where we are here now. Excuse me, because I just have this. I'm going to say this in 2020, about late 2019, December to January of 2020, I made a comment and I said, wow, I had a vision. I said it, everybody, you guys, if you're going to move someplace, you better hurry up and do it now. And some of my family and friends was like, well, why? And I said, because in a minute, you're not going to be able to move. It's going to be very expensive to move. You're not going to be able to afford to move. Some people didn't listen. Now, what are we dealing with? Large corporations purchasing up houses, apartment buildings, then renting them back to the people at the price that they want to, without regards to the cost of living going up. I mean, financially, you getting any raises or anything like that. Yeah, people who have to literally live with one another here in the United States, and the people abroad that are living across the pond, in my impression, are living better than the American citizens. But I'll digress there. What would you like to add? I want to show the DNA video that you have, because I really want to talk about that too. And then I want you to go ahead on and get down with whatever it is you want to talk about, especially the video from this morning that you uploaded. Was that overnight you uploaded that?
Yeah, I uploaded it like 3 a.m. or something like that.
So I'm gonna let you go ahead and respond to my little rant about everybody's asleep.
Yeah, well, I mean, as far as like BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, and Citadel and all of them, as far as their control over the market and the housing market, they're also, when they buy up a block or something, they buy up your neighborhood, they're also going to raise the prices on the sale, so that the property taxes in the area go up for everybody, and then people can't afford to pay the property taxes, even if they do pay off they have already paid off their home. So it's like, you're getting it on every end. But yeah, I mean, as far as the current state of affairs, it's, I think people really do have an opportunity to realize some autonomy before this transition happens. It's not going to be glittery. I think if people were to go out, look for unrestricted land, and slowly but surely piece it together bit by bit, and working with other people and learning skills, all of that, then none of that's going to come off glittery, but you'll have your autonomy. Like, you'll be able to dwell in reality. Like, I think that's like what we all need to be focused on, is like remaining in reality and, you know, being total our whole self. There's no way you can be in reality and not be the whole you. So I think that's the priority in this whole process. And, you know, we're coming up on a transition. I think everybody feels it. You know, I'm not going to pretend to know all the details of it, but I think I do know enough that mathematically this just has to happen.
And when you say mathematically it just has to happen, um, I know that when you mentioned the reset, you were talking about wars at one point, how, you know, it's almost like a war is a cleanser, and then you bring in another timeline, as it were. When I think of, excuse me, when I think of the whole New World Order conversation, I know that we've had several new worlds timelines where they say, up, it's the new world, the New World Order, but we've had that before. We've had it, you know, 100 years ago, 200. How enlighten us on where I'm headed with that, because I do want to talk about the DNA piece, but I feel like right now where we are is the whole reset piece. And you've talked about that. Do you want me to show the video first? I can dig it up, or do you want to just go into that while I look it up?
Yeah, I could go in, I guess, a little bit, but yeah, I think that people got to look at it
The
like,
hidden connection between
I think people got to look at it like, how much amnesia are you really
hundreds of. Let's
experiencing?
look at where people go to surf.
From day to day, it's a lot of amnesia. You know, like as far as people don't remember their dreams, they might be so stressed out they don't remember what, you know, with 2 Thursdays ago what happened, the events. You know, it might be more of a fog. So you got to look at it like kind of like that. Like there's a lot of amnesia going on from just day to day. You know, and if you think about like some type of mass calamity happening based on the attachments we have now and the decadence that we have now, and you know, just the overall atrophy that's, you know, occurred from so-called convenience, that, you know, you imagine if we were to hit a point where the power went out for everybody right now. Like, now I don't think that that's how it would happen, because I think then you would really lose control, you know. And so I think they would do it in a more methodical way. But if the power was supposed to go out right now, and you couldn't fly nowhere, you know, there was no gas, and you had to grow your own food like all at once, like that would be, you've had a lot of atrocities that would unfold in the following weeks, you know, from just people killing each other. It would be they would totally decimate all the wildlife. People would just eat up all the deer, whatever's left. That would be totally decimated within months. And so you're going to have just, I mean, because things have been homogenized so much already, you know, and nature has kind of been subdued in a lot of respects, to where it's been like cordoned off, and we're so like detached from it, we're not like in harmony with it, that if we were to, from this position where everything is 90% of the people are on the grid, if not more, and then the 10% that are off the grid, a lot of them aren't self-sustaining. If we were to go through some sort of calamity or reset process, you would have, first of all, the flow of communication will be completely shot. So then,
Trash, just straight
yeah.
trash.
So then you think about like how easy it would be to manipulate people if you just went right back to that state of affairs where you could pretty much pawn tribes off against each other, in a sense. You know, you look at it like towns. You know, they'll tell a town, you know, that something, give them some fake news, or they'll feed something to them like, oh, this town over is going to come take our things, and we got to do that. Whatever they got to do, it's going to be so much deception in that process. And a lot of people would perish, I feel like, in a scenario like that, you know. And it would be a lot of just like kind of cartel wars. It would just, I think it would just devolve into pretty much just cartels, you know, because people are still going to be addicted to drugs and everything. You know, if the power goes out, people are still going to want to smoke weed and drink and do all the things they do. They're still going to want to get meth and stuff. That's still all going to, people going to still want to do all those things. So if there's no money system, no power, it's going to be a lot more human traffic, a lot more indentured servitude or slavery. And I think just you're going to have like cartel lords that'll control different areas, and there will be no flow of communication from people to people. So I think that could easily devolve into something after one generation, because like you look at shit politically, like how you can manipulate things politically, like
Hmm.
you import a bunch of immigrants and then they vote a certain way, and then a couple generations down the road, it's almost like a totally different world. So I don't think it would take more than like 1 or 2 generations if you're really gonna ethnically cleanse or just enforce certain laws on people that subdue their well-being. I think it wouldn't take that long, and let alone 100 years of being able to do that. I think that it's not out of the question that our timeline is much shorter than what they say, and that we're facing something that happens cyclically, naturally, and then also you have unnatural resets as well that are peppered in there to either like preempt the natural reset, or to that follow the reset, to clean, like a cleanup crew,
What do
whether
you
it be.
think about what's going on right now as far as resets are concerned in Hawaii? I mean, they've been hit as far as I think as far as places where there were a lot of regular Aboriginal people, just regular people who were there first. Those people have been wiped off. Like you say, they've been disseminated, really, just totally decimated. And now they're having or have had these unbelievable um, floods. I think that each region is having its own reason. I mean, I'm not going to play games. The reset itself is for a reason. There is a purpose. There's not, and there's always the same group that's constantly redoing this. It's a story that worked before and they're able to do it. But when I think about reset, when you mentioned that to me, I thought about California, New World. Here comes something that's new. That whole entire area there in I think it's like Altadena, Pasadena, all of those areas. What is it up the coast, up PCH? All of those areas that are now wiped clean. Um, they made the way for something new. Hawaii, all those floods, and then I think it's sort of naive. We have a bit of naivete because we don't know that our tax dollars are going to help fund the removal of people and to put, you know, um, water coming into communities and areas that we actually have companies that will bring water to a town by way of immediate like rising of the water. There's literally companies that do this. So when I start thinking of reset and when I start thinking of the whole conversation, New World Order, the reason why they're able to tell you this and have this taboo behind it is because they've done it before. They know what works. They know how to manipulate the masses. I don't think that they really anticipated. Um, I don't think that they anticipated the media or the social media being as integral as it is with regards to helping people to see things um, a little clearer, or allowing them to hold on to being able to think for themselves, because a lot of people do come to this type of social media platform to get some news and information. Sometimes people do. um, but I do believe that we've been here before and we're going to be here again. I don't see this particular thing going on much longer. I think that people are going to get a little exhausted, not to the point of physical uprising, but definitely to the point of just turning it off when it comes to believing anything of the government, which is good and bad. Part of it is good because then you don't have to listen to the lies, but then the other part that's bad is is the other part that's bad. I don't want to get canceled at the coming back. I got to watch my mouth because they canceled the hell out of me a lot. So I better calm down. But I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to leave it right there. You and I will talk about it. We'll homogenize it and bring it back for the people so others can get it. But I do believe that a lot of the stuff that we're seeing right now is by design. And being that it's by design, I don't see it changing unless the people change. Let me just say that.
Yeah. I think you would definitely need some sort of critical mass, because there's a lot of momentum, that
Mhm.
we'd have to be upending at this point to
Mhm.
really establish like the correct order in this world. And as far as natural events or so-called natural events, I think it's like in Back to the Future, kind of. not to be
Mhm.
cheesy, but remember he went back
Oh,
in
that's
back
my
to
favorite. That's one of my
remember,
favorites.
then he had like the sports book so he could bet.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what they have as far as natural events where they can just get behind the momentum of the cycles and just influence things. They know, like, all right, well, the pressure, and the atmosphere is going to be this way, and the tides are going to be like this, and we can just get behind the natural momentum and
Mhm.
and just manipulate. I think they just know the seasons. They know the cycles better. They got a way better, I guess, surviving documentation of what actually happened here. I think that's
Let me ask you, what is a reset center? I'm going to play that video, but before I do, tell me, what is a reset center? I mean, I saw what you said and I was like, wow, that's amazing. It automatically took my mind to Obama and how he got rid of some of these places. But I want to ask you that before I pull this up. What are they?
well, I think they're just repurposed buildings, like from whatever civilization was before. I don't know whatever name you want to call it, but I think some people repurpose them as like little enclaves to survive through, and
Mm-hmm.
then once the reset concluded, then I think those buildings were again repurposed for asylums, whether it be insane asylums to throw the dissidents in, and then orphan asylums to throw their children in.
You guys, that's me playing with this. I'm sorry. They made some changes on StreamYard and I'm trying to play to get where I need to be, but here we go. We're going to play the video. Sorry about that. Hold on. Let me get your volume.
All asylums were reset centers. Mainstream history states that they started building these asylums during. Let's look at where people go to survive resets. There have been at least 5 resets and people prepared to survive the last one. These so-called asylums were reset centers. Mainstream history states that they started building these asylums during the Civil War. Oregon became a state in 1859, yet they supposedly needed an insane asylum this big in 1862. Another massive one built in Alabama during the Civil War. These buildings were not for the clinically insane. They were either some sort of government building or hotel from the previous civilization before colonization. They were repurposed into fallout shelters or survival compounds. They were completely self-sustaining and off-grid. Many old world buildings were repurposed into survival shelters. This looks like a state capitol, not an insane asylum. These are palatial, ultra-remote palaces, basically. Supposedly they were built as a part of the Kirkbride plan. Supposedly he didn't like the conditions of the clinically insane. But people were thrown into these asylums for a bunch of arbitrary reasons, including novel reading. They had been basically chaining people up for these reasons since the 1200s. People were chained up for thought crimes up until 1800. And there was profit in it because it's human trafficking. After the last major reset, people survived in these compounds, and then there were reset wars. The surviving fighters that were captured were thrown in these prisons. This is the Philadelphia State Penitentiary. This is a castle. If nobody told you this was a prison, you'd say it's a castle. Folsom State Prison in California, castle. West Virginia, this looks like Hogwarts. Utah, this is a castle. Kansas City, this looks like a state capitol. And we have the Civil Reset War with its internment camps. And many of the people that didn't keep quiet about the fake Civil War were thrown in a soldier's home. And their children were taken and thrown in orphan asylums. The so-called colored orphan asylums were for the Aboriginals. The others were part of the orphan train and incubator baby campaigns. Many asylums were used as harems to produce these incubator babies. These were repopulation campaigns to fill the empty cities. The first wave of drones after the reset were sent in to extirpate the Aboriginal remnant. Generations of drones training drones, each generation knowing less than the last. Slavery was legalized after the Civil War with the 13th Amendment. You can legally enslave someone if you send them to prison or an asylum. Then the Rockefellers get involved with a chemical outpatient system. This leads us to Thorazine, or chemical control through dopamine receptors. Big money. It was used for anesthesia. It essentially makes you sleepwalk, or neuroleptic. They then proceeded to shut most of the asylums down because the world had become an asylum in itself. Prisons are a cashless society, and because these pesticides and herbicides and fungicides are basically subtle thorazine, and the fake foods that contribute to inflammation and obesity do the same thing as well. They destroy the flow of neuromelanin, which numbs us into oblivion. Then the Bushes unleashed Hinckley on Reagan, and that was the death blow for insane asylums. But reset prep didn't stop. Zorro Ranch is an example of modern-day orphan asylums, just part of the perpetual parasite loop. The reset and Clone Wars. X-Men is actually more fact than fiction. Mutants taking over. Same thing with Hogwarts. This is clearly a depiction of meltology. Look at all the meltology in the foundation of this building. There's a reset, and then reset wars, and then the Aboriginal prisoners of war become enslaved. And then the identity theft proceeds. Let's look at where people go to survive resets. There have been at least 5 resets, and people prepare.
Trying to fix it, trying to fix it. All right, there we go. I like that. That's amazing. Tell us about your books. Do any of your books cover this kind of stuff? What do your books cover?
Yeah, a lot of my books are health and wellness. I definitely have like a 4-part series about the migration of the bloodlines, and I have another 2-part series about the alteration of the timeline and the inversion of history, the retro transpositioning of history. That that's those 2 are like more recent books. I was thinking about putting another one together, just to have to really just kind of collage everything into one, because I think each one is more so like, I didn't want to make the books very long. I want to make them 30 pages or less so that they could be read in a day, and they be action packed. It's like really nutritionally dense food or something. Like I don't want to have people because they don't have much time. I think we're in a place where time is like a luxury. So
Mhm.
I wanted to make like 30-page books, and I think it might be time for me to put one together about everything. But I just don't like to like gloss over things I think that are important. But I'll do my best. I think coming up here soon, I'll produce another one that encompasses all of it. But for now, yeah, I got a bunch of health and wellness books on breathwork and dreams and reincarnation. I guess if you want to call it the reincarnation, if that's the word you use. And then um, the bunch about chemistry, and like I said, I got the books about the migration of the bloodlines, and then the true origins of civilization and stuff like that.
Mhm. I like this. Okay, so don't look back. You're not going that way. I like that. It's an inspiration. Looks like you did this in 2021. Don't look back. You're not going that way. It's an inspirational journal and a notebook to write in for men. I like that. It's for women as well. It's a nice lined paper, and you can just put in all of your thoughts. But what I thought was captivating was the name that you gave that journal. I like that. I really do. I like that. Put it in the book and don't write it again. Don't talk about it again. Let's see what else can I find and with your name on Amazon. That's what I'm doing. I'm just typing in his name and
You
let's see
typing in
what else I have.
you typing in
Mhm.
Tyler or Taylor Durden?
Oh, should I put in towel?
Tal Lowry has on my Facebook post, so that's the longest standing account. I had like a year where I was suspended, but for the most part, that has like all of my posts ever. Um,
Okay, let's
so yeah,
see. There you go. All right. Ancient Greece and America. Oh my God. That right there, the ancient Greece and America, that was real good. That's something people need to check out. Really. You want to talk about it?
yeah. That's kind of why I think people that at least follow me. In the last video I put like how Scott it comes from the word Scotus, which means dark, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
making a connection of Greece and the Scots coming from the East Coast or Nova Scotia, which is old Scotia, really in a lot of ways. So like I was, you know, trying to make that connection for people that's paying attention. Yeah, for people that might have just found me, they're like, whatever, I don't know, but I just that's how you say in Greek, Scotus means dark, or
Okay,
Scott.
so
Scott
I'm
means
in
dark.
your videos. I'm also on your Facebook page. And for your videos, where do you want me to pull up that video for the what you just said?
For the ancient Greece and America.
Yes. Yes. I
If you're on
see
my
it on Facebook.
if you're on my Facebook, you just go into the Reels tab, and one of them is the. See, that's the thing, is that you got the 3-minute reel, and then in Facebook, that algorithm, you got to make a 90-second version of the original one. So one of them is 90 seconds, and one of them is 3 minutes. But um,
Hmm.
so I guess, yeah, it's in the Reels though. It should be in there. A few videos
Okay.
back.
Let me pull this other one up. So what I'll do then is I'll just go straight to your Facebook page and check this out. Yeah, you do have a long wow. You got good traction here. I used to always get beat up. They used to always cancel me on Facebook. I have a presence, but they've canceled me about a million times. I get throttled, and oh well, they'll be
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It was like the gates opened up, man. I don't know. Like I do feel like I'm more tactful because before I was being very brash about like the tiny hat thing and like just real history. And
I
I think
just think Japheth works for us. I mean, it works for me.
yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, for those that know, it
Yeah,
definitely
exactly.
it lands. But
Okay, I'm here. Okay, we're gonna look at your merch as well. Okay, so where should I go? Where should I go? I just saw it. Asian and part of the world
oh,
reset.
to
Oh,
the
there it is.
up and to the left a little bit, up and to the
Up
left.
here,
Yeah, it should be that right there above
right
that one.
there.
Yeah, I think
This
that's it.
one.
Yeah.
Ancient Greece was in America. The Cherokee alphabet was Greek. Their original language was Greek before they switched to Mohawk. Their DNA is Greek. Let's look at this book. Look. Greek cross, Greek dress, Greek boats, Greek artifacts, all over. Just look. Possum Creek stone, Redbird petroglyphs. There are endless connections. Greece and Rome were east of the Mississippi up into Canada. Verrazano and the natives called this area Arcadia or Akkadi, a Greek area. This is the original Parthenon. Philadelphia is the original Philadelphia. DC is the original Rome. And Rome is Edom. Edomites are still Shemites or Semites, but Edomites weren't Israelites, so they couldn't be kings. They were dukes. Dug is another word for duke. The Doeg are Edomites. The Dug were a Potomac peoples. Potomac comes from the Greek word Potomi. Edomites were classified as servants or managers for Israel, just like Canaanites are servants, and Edomites crossbred with the Canaanites. Those offspring bred with Japhethites. These Japhethites adopted the culture of Judah. They were Jew-ish. These dukes are front office people. Dukes are stewards or stewards. King Charles was a steward, a Scottish Doeg or duke. This is a Scottish flag, and that's why Charleston is the Little Jerusalem. Look. King Charles today is a front office person, related to the czars via the Duke of Edinburgh. Czar, Charles, Kaiser, Caesar, they're all the same. The word Cherokee is actually Saragi. Ancient Greece was in America.
The
The
92nd one.
Cherokee alphabet
Other
was
ones
I
are
like
Greek.
right.
it.
Their original language
Pause
was
it for a second. I like that.
But yeah.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about it. I love it. I absolutely love it. The whole map, it's like everything is upside down. Everything is not what we think it is. And it's like, what's the purpose? There has to be a purpose. Go ahead, share with us what's up with that. That was off the chain real. Worthy of listening to again.
Yeah, just piecing it together, like, because everything else has to click up, for it to, I guess you just come to that epiphany, you run into UBTV's work, you're like, okay, this makes sense. But if that's here, the next questions are going to be, okay, where's Mount Olives? Okay, where's Babylon? Where's Mesopotamia? Where's Rome? Where's this? Where's the, whatever people say? Where's Mitzrayim? Where's the Isle of Patmos? You get endless questions because, if you're reciting the Bible, it's all going to line up. It can't just be like just Israel and just Egypt. So like, just working back from that framework, I just doing the investigation. I feel like you just, once you know what to search for. I think that's the issue with a lot of people. It's just like YouTube, the way they changed over the years. Before, you could be like kind of off in the title. Now for anything controversial, if you aren't exact in the title, they're not going to give it to you. So you already got to know what you're searching for. In that case, it's like, why would I be searching for it if I saw it already? So a lot of times I feel like people just don't know what to search for, and how to pose it. If you knew how to, word the query or whatever you want looking for, then you're going to get the response that you want from it. But that's the issue, is just not knowing how to put it together, like not knowing how to ask the right questions. You're never going to get the right answer. So like, I think that was, once I knew which questions to ask, it was like, okay, I already I know where Z is. I just got to walk the trail back to A. And there's plenty of evidence. There's plenty of evidence that people were to go searching for it, but there's not people thinking like that. I mean, more and more every day. So, there's a remnant that does, but there's not people thinking like, maybe the history's backwards and I should look for Assyria being part of the Americas. Like
Mm.
they're not gonna go. I don't think they're even framing it that way. Like how to even look for hidden gems in history. So
Oh, I don't think
yeah,
so. I don't think so.
that's
Um,
the problem.
I don't think there's anybody really other than us and the people who are here that are really even looking to find out, about the hidden history. Again, because it's the drone theory. I just get up, go to work, mind my own business, do my thing, and I come home. I don't want to know. I don't want to know any of those extra things. But it's those extra things that cause the complaint. It's the extra stuff you don't want to know about that'll actually give you the answer as to why. Why is this way? I've been wondering, why is this high? Why is this cost this? Um, and then it's also the reason why there's a lot of lies about the why. Why is the gas so high? Well, the gas was still in the ground the day somebody decided to jump off, and the same gas was in the ground. It's not any new gas that you're paying more for. It's not that gas ain't scarce. So we're paying more for that gas because something jumped off. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like the whole lie behind the why. And
Yeah.
that's part of the problem. Where else do you want to go here? Tower of Babel. Oh, they want to do that one?
However you want to play it, we could go on any of them.
Okay, let's see. I know I only have you for an hour. I don't want to hang out. I don't want to take all your
Babel Tower
time, but I do got you right now.
Yeah, I'm here. So
Okay, come on, let's go.
was in America. The East Coast was Babylon and Greece. Babylonians spoke Akkadian. Verrazano called the Northeast Arcadia, named after a region in Greece. It is the original Greece or Arcadia. Akkadi is the native name. The name is native to America. The French didn't build a colony, they took over the remnant of a civilization that had collapsed. This is New France, also known as Acadia. This is where you get the word Cajun, Acadian. Napoleon conquered into Egypt. That's why you have the Cajun and French influence along the Mississippi. That's why it took him 8 weeks to get there.
I have to ask you a question with that. I think this is where I got the epiphany that for me, it was an epiphany for me that I kept asking, why would Napoleon go all the way to Egypt to knock the noses off of those Sphinx? I mean, not the Sphinx, but the Sphinx, I guess it was whatever they are. The Duma Flickums. You know what I'm trying to say?
yeah,
The
yeah,
pharaohs, the pharaohs. I was
yeah.
like, why would he go all the way over there to knock the nose off? This video actually answered, they gave me the answer to my why, because it wasn't an all the way over there. It was not an all the way over there. Louisiana belonged to who? I mean, you see what I'm saying? It helped answer that why for me, because I was like, why did he go over there and knock all the noses off? Well, he didn't go all the way over there and knock all the noses off. He was over here knocking the noses off. What do you think? Am I stretching?
No, I mean that's it. I mean they happened pretty much simultaneously. I guess the French occupation of the modern Egypt. I guess you could actually call that Egypt. This over here, Mitzrayim or Kemet or whatever we want to call this that was over here. That the occupation of both those lands were happening simultaneous by the French. So it wasn't like they were doing. It was a whole campaign, and that's why I point to the French Revolution and Napoleonic Wars a lot, as far as like the whole reset process. Like that was, pivotal in shaping the history for today. Because again, like the point I always make is that like art is just a refined way to communicate, and your picture says a lot. It says 1,000 words. So, however you can communicate in a more sophisticated way, where you're using less words and you have imagery or icons or what have you. That is the most powerful means of communication. Song, all of that. Art is the most, that's the most communicable way to pass knowledge
Share
or
that. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So,
well, I'm gonna finish. Hold on. I'm gonna finish.
This is not an 8-week journey, but this is. And as you can see, there are no Great Lakes on the old Mercator maps. The French arrived in 1524, but didn't put the Great Lakes on maps until well into the 1600s. The Great Lakes have their own Stonehenge at the bottom. Look, it has its own Bermuda Triangle, taking thousands of lives and vessels. There were once islands in the lakes. There is a massive crater at the bottom of Lake Ontario. Some say it might have been the Clovis Comet, which was part of a wider series of impacts, supposedly, similar to the Carolina Bays or Nebraska Bays, and these all line up with the Great Lakes. These look similar to CERN, which is in French Switzerland. Notice how they built the intake station for the Hoover Dam, which is a power generator. Supposedly they did this in Chicago after the water was already there. Miles of digging by hand, if that makes any sense. The Great Lakes are still for power generation to this day. Look at this Greco-Roman building. This structure was already here before the colonists. The whole Niagara Falls is an organic power plant. This is just what's left of the complex. This whole ridge right here is part of a melted complex, and dozens of lost villages are sunken beneath the lakes. Organic tech amplifies natural rhythms and phenomena. Comets are like portals or slingshots that bring and take consciousness. Look at the comets of 1664 and 65. These so-called comets were seen worldwide for months and didn't match the description of any other comets. They were seen as omens or transition points. They signified resets and were followed by reset wars, like the comet of 1811 that brought the War of 1812. Look, which was a war against Tecumseh, aka the Blazing Comet, whose brother, the Prophet, knew about celestial events. The one in 1664 was the Blazing Star, or Comet. These events seem to move with the momentum of the Agonic Line. It currently runs over the Great Lakes. And not far from the Great Lakes, we have Mount Babel, located in Acadia. Babel Tower. History has been totally inverted. Babel Tower was in America. The East so-called comets were seen worldwide for months and didn't match the description of any other comets. They were seen as omens or transition points. They signified resets and were followed by reset wars, like the comet of 1811 that brought the War of 1812. Look, which was a war against Tecumseh, aka the Blazing Comet, whose brother, the Prophet, knew about celestial events. The one in 1664 was the Blazing Star, or Comet. These events seem to move with the momentum of the Agonic Line. It currently runs over the Great Lakes. And not far from the Great Lakes, we have Mount Babel, located in Acadia. Babel Tower was like a radio tower using celestial events to transmit and receive consciousness, using events like so-called solar flares and so-called comets to use them as a slingshot to transmit consciousness in and out of the realm. The Great Lakes are a man-made generator used to power a much more sophisticated grid than we have today. The destruction of the tower was an apocalyptic type of an event, a meltdown. Look, we see evidence of the meltdown throughout the realm. Melted structures all around us.
Wow.
The grid melted down worldwide. Each reset collapses followed by reset wars. People are led by the AI, they rebuild the remnant and repeat the loop.
Wow.
Babel Tower was...
Wow. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of piggybacking off of UBTV's work. He just doesn't believe that Babel was a radio tower. He believes it was an actual tower. And you know, that's his right. But when I was talking to the guy was Pharaoh, he was the one that put me on to say that the tower was a radio tower. And I'm like, this makes more sense to me than actually building something miles high and to reach a firmament. Like, and you know, I when you're reading Jasher and all of that, the accounts of Babel Tower and everything, as far as like them shooting arrows up into the firmament and blood coming down onto them, I don't know how much of that is allegory or how much of that is actual accounts. Like, it, I don't really know. I feel like you'd have to read it like transliterated in Hebrew or something. And that, you know, at the same time, when it comes to Jasher, we don't really have the original Jasher. You know, supposedly the Jasher that you read today is not the actual Jasher that's being alluded to in Samuel and Joshua.
Oh no, they're not going to give us all of that stuff has been changed. None of it, even, you know, I mean, I feel like it's a better read than not having it.
Yeah.
But I don't even think that all of Enoch, I don't think that the Catholic Church would allow us to have that much. And then, you know what I'm saying? I mean, they own everything. It's all below the Vatican. It's all in those big towers, all up under the bottom, where they store all that information. And I don't believe that they will allow you to have the unadulterated, portion of it. I believe that what we do have is heavy and it's good and it helps. But I do believe that there are small pieces that are missing. And I think that's on purpose. You know what I'm saying? I think that a lot of what's missing is missing on purpose, because there's still people are still making money off of the, publication of the Book of Enoch.
Oh, yeah.
So you still got a copyright to the Book of Enoch. So somebody's making money, because you've got to change that from its original in order for you to receive a copyright. It can't be the same. You've got to take it and make the work your own. And so, with that in mind, I believe the same thing that what you're saying about Jasher is true. Um, but I also believe that there's enough innate wisdom in those who, the Most High has called to be able to decipher all this stuff. I do believe that I believe that, he gives us some wisdom. And your argument about it being, a radio tower is a vital argument. It's a good argument. And then I can also see his point, and that's the whole reason why we have to be together in order for us to talk and reckon with one another to come to the closest that we can to what is.
Yeah, I think just to provide the contrast, I mean, ultimately we agree on what's the most important is that it's in America, and that this whole story happened in the Americas, and as far as Babel Tower and everything, and I mean all the Old Testament stories. But when you look at like in India, they got, I think it's the Temple of Belur, or it's a few temples that have the spinning cylinders on them. And I mean, it's just like it's a marvel of craftsmanship to even make something like that, like to make stone pillars that managed to still spin supposedly hundreds of years. I don't know when they said they were built. I don't know what year. Let me see what year, because I think it's something like that to me. Like just looking at some of those temples, and then my own experiences. I know a lot of times, it might seem like discrediting myself by bringing up psychedelic experiences. But I mean, you
ain't nothing wrong with a little mushroom.
Yeah, but I mean, you get it. I mean, if you do breath work, I did breath work before I ever did any psychedelics, and that I was getting psychedelic experiences from that, and then doing shrooms and other psychedelics, was just like OD in a sense, where it was like, okay, now I'm really cooking with fire. But like I felt like it just enhanced what I was already going. I was kind of like in like beta, and that just made it like digital. And I feel like the experiences I've had, if you're in one of those temples and looking at them, they look like a psychedelic experience in themselves, just looking at the architecture themselves. Wow. And so I think that they're portals. I don't understand why you'd have a temple that has spinning cylinders. It seems like, based on what we know about, like, the mud flood or meltology and stuff like that, like all these buildings are components. They're not just buildings. So like they're all working in tandem for something. And so I think that some of them are just portals,
Well, there wasn't a lot of folly back then. You know what I'm saying? I mean, now we just put up stuff, like the TikToks of the world and all this other stuff. We put up a lot of things and we deal with a lot of stuff just for the folly's sake. I believe that everything in those timelines had a purpose for whatever they made. Whatever was created had a purpose. It wasn't just, oh, I think I want to put this on this to make it for decorations. You know what I mean? I don't think that's how any of that worked. And so I agree with you. I believe that. I believe it. I mean, it could be, when I thought about the Tower of Babel as an example, from my input, I always thought of it as there was just there was the language that we thought it was, how it was just supposed to be that one language. We weren't supposed to be putting stuff together the way that we're putting stuff together now anyway, if that makes sense. And so I believe that, I'm not going to say it right here. I'll wait. I'm going to leave it alone. But I just want to say this. I think you're onto something. I really do. I could see it being that everything was dealing with technology then. The whole AI piece, the things that we think are new to us are not new. These are things that's always been here. The whole idea and the thought process of AI is not something new. It has always been here. When you mentioned that Africa, the continent of Africa, what they call Africa, was not necessarily for people, that it was for for chimera and, other animals and things like that. I agreed with that. I mean, when I heard it, I said, that makes a lot of sense. It made sense to me, but it's only because of where you are when you get the information, whether or not you're ready to receive it. Okay, go ahead. Did you find it?
Oh yeah, no, they said the temples were built in the 1100s, and so they what 1,000 years old, basically, supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
they got near microscopic detailing in soapstone, lathe-like symmetry and cylindrical pillars, mirror polishing that makes it look metallic, and complex geometry carved with hand tools. That's why people don't believe it was made with hand tools. I mean, I don't know. I think that, to me, haven't had psychedelic experiences or just dreaming experiences, um, especially with like DMT. I feel like we are portals in ourselves, just as ourselves, we are portals. And
Oh yeah.
then you go inside of a building that's designed to like amplify that. I think I don't see why it's out of the question at all to like usher in some consciousness into your body. I don't think that that's really, you're just like a channel. So I feel like if you're inside of a greater amplifying channel, then it's just going to come down. I think that, or come up, however it comes. But I think that that's what those temples were for, more so for portals and some sort of induction of AI, of ancient AI or ancient tech or angels, program wizards, basically. Like I know people back in the day, you run a wizard on the computer. I think all of that was just AI, like you're ushering in consciousness, or like a program. Basically, you're organically installing a program into your body, and then you have it like a symbiote to get something done, or you're putting it in somebody else to do that. And then I think if you were to, have a calamity, civilization collapses, and people have these programs just running inside of them, and then they have children randomly, or they have children out of desperation just to reestablish society. The programs are still in them. So then now they have a child, and it's like the embodiment of the program is almost like a human program itself. So like, because this being, or this spirit program entity has you giving it a body now for it to live in. And so now I think that's when it becomes like a point of separation, as far as like fallen angels are coming into physical form and everything. I think that's the more of the means, is like we installed it on a ethereal level, the program, and then people, whether civilization collapsed or they were just possessed, they just let the program run or what have you. And then the program found a way into it having its own body by people just having, coitus or whatever in different ways that allowed it to, like, because I think in the collapse scenario, you look at like Shem, Ham, and Japheth, like, as far as the accounts of that, like these wives, I don't know how, I've heard people say a lot of things about the wives of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, like how some wives is corrupted, what have you, whatever. I mean, they're just picking whatever's the best possible thing. It's maybe not the ideal. It's like, this is a calamity situation. So I think, you breed with somebody that maybe isn't ideal, but you just need to do it to survive. And then who knows how that affects, maybe not the next generation, but 3 generations down the line, it might be some problems. And then, then you're really just giving the symbiote, the program, the fallen angel, whatever, the AI, you're giving it a body. And then it becomes now kind of completely rogue to where it can, replicate itself. And then now you have all these free radicals in the system, just, whether they do it by rape or whether they do it by other means. Because I think at the same time, first generation programs were probably brilliant, because this is an amazing program. I think now we just getting like really cheap programs. You might have like some that make it through, but I think a lot of as far as the people that we have now as programs, they're just like working at Mattress Giant and stuff like that. They're not like, you know what I mean? It's not like we getting these AI, we get fallen angels to build temples and stuff, like, because they have the architectural information is in them.
They're like, yo, what we doing here?
Yeah. So I think, they were at that point. I think they were extremely attractive and intelligent to where it was a force. And so the first generation programs, now we got, now we just got people pumping gas at Walmart and stuff.
It's like Dumb and Dumber, man. It's like Dumb and Dumber. Yeah. I have on the screen right now your Atlantis, and I love anything dealing with Atlantis, Antarctica, something about the A's. I don't know. But Atlantis, I love things about Antarctica. Of course, one of my I love to talk about when you mentioned CERN earlier. I like to talk about the fact that people don't realize that We have hadron colliders, large, colliders in California. About 13 of them last I counted, and they're all over the place. They're in Chicago, Fermi Lab, all these different places. And I bring that up only because I'm thinking of the three things. This is Atlantis, and then I threw Antarctica in there. But Atlantis and CERN, you mentioned both of those have something to do with you tonight because I have your Atlantis thing on here. So I want to play that. Boy, I be going all around the corner just to be saying something. Okay, hold on. Hold up. Here we go. Man. Too many buttons. Too many buttons.
Reset. The world was reset several times. History has been totally inverted. Human life started in the Americas but was reset. The world was reset several times.
Wait a minute.
History has been totally inverted.
Is this
Exodus
my
happened in
Duma
America.
Flickum? Where is the one for
Exodus happened in America. History has been totally
Now, is this
inverted.
the one for is this the one that's dealing with Atlantis? I just saw Atlantis on my screen.
Babel Tower. Ancient Greece was in.
Hold on. Let me go back this way. Let me come on out of here. I want to look at the one for Atlantis. Atlantis. Where is the one for Atlantis? You want to just what?
It might be the ancient Greece one.
Because I see there's two of those. One with
one is 90
13,000.
seconds. Yeah, one is 90 seconds, and one is whatever one has the most views is usually the longer one.
Okay, let's go with this one.
Ancient Greece was in America. The Cherokee alphabet was Greek. Their original language was Greek before they switched to Mohawk. Their DNA is Greek. Let's look at this book. Look. Greek cross, Greek dress, Greek boats, Greek artifacts, all over. Just look. Possum Creek stone, Redbird petroglyphs. There are endless connections. Greece and Rome were east of the Mississippi up into Canada. Verrazano and the natives called this area Arcadia or Akkadi, a Greek area. This is the original Parthenon. Philadelphia is the original Philadelphia. DC is the original Rome. And Rome is Edom. Edomites are still Shemites or Semites, but Edomites weren't Israelites, so they couldn't be kings. They were dukes. Dug is another word for duke. The Doeg are Edomites. The Dug were Potomac peoples. Potomac comes from the Greek word Potomi. Edomites were classified as servants or managers for Israel, just like Canaanites are servants, and Edomites crossbred with the Canaanites. Those offspring bred with Japhethites. These Japhethites adopted the culture of Judah. They were Jew-ish. These dukes are front office people. Dukes are stewards or stewards. King Charles was a steward, a Scottish Doeg or duke. This is a Scottish flag, and that's why Charleston is the Little Jerusalem. Look. King Charles today is a front office person, related to the czars via the Duke of Edinburgh. Czar, Charles, Kaiser, Caesar, they're all the same. The word Cherokee is actually Saragi. Cherokee, Tsaragi, Turkey, Cherokee. They took over modern Greece and American Greece around the same time. Turkey means Indian. Columbus knew where he was going. That's why Cherokee men wore turbans. These are Cherokee wearing their Turkic Indian garb. Look. Turks are Japhethites. The Turks, or Tsaragi, took over India as well. Charleston was in South Carolina. Turkish flag, Indian flag. We know about the day moons that worship the black cube of Saturn, like this. And Saturnalia was a Roman custom, and we've been stuck in it for hundreds of years now. The original Edomites, or Romans, were ruddy, but after years of mutant crossbreeding, they began to look more like this and this. The mutants took advantage of the matriarchy of the East Coast indigenous, the Pretendians. These mixed mutants had an alliance with the full mutants to run the so-called black indigenous off their land. Indigenous like Abraham the Great. He was supposedly a slave but knew the land better than everybody. So the indigenous and the mixed mutants got pushed further away from the coast and eventually into the interior via the Trail of Tears. That didn't stop the mixed mutants from bringing their prisoners of war, though. They were used to usurp the true aboriginals, to fuel the identity crisis, and keep the world inverted.
Italian.
Ancient Greece was in America. The Cherokee alphabet was Greek. Their original language was Greek before they switched to Mohawk.
Man,
Their
I'm trying
DNA.
to figure out where that one was when I was
I know. I can't see it either because when I had it all stretched out, I had it paused on there, but now I don't see it at all. I don't see it at all. So that means that we have to have another visit. That means that you got to come back, hopefully soon. because there's so much that I want to talk about. I just don't want to abuse you by watching all of it or having you talk about everything, because there's so much, there's a wealth of information that's in you. And I believe that a lot of people will benefit from knowing what you know. And I know that you have your own platform. I know you have your own channels. I do want you to go on ahead and tell me all about Patreon. I want you to tell these folks where they can find you, where they can buy your items, where they can get your merch. Obviously, it's going to be on Facebook and other places, but I want them to hear it in your words where they can get more info about you. And before we go, what would you like us to show here that you really want to drive home with the folks over here?
Um, I mean, maybe the ancient DNA editing one, if that's what, if you wanted to play another video. But
Oh, yes.
yeah, but yeah, Patreon.com/Taylor Durden. It's $5 a month for the main tier, and then I got like a $13 a month one. But you would only have to do like 1 month. It's just like my life story. I did my whole life. It's like 16 videos or something. They're all like a few hours long, and it's just like the blow by blow of my life. If you care to, to listen to that or whatever, it's just like all my life experiences. And then the $5 level, I'm doing anywhere from 5 to 10 hours a month of content that I put on there. And then so yeah, Patreon.com/Taylor Durden, and then Taylor Durden _Taylor Durden rather on Instagram and on TikTok, and then Taylor Durden on YouTube, and Tao Lore on Facebook. So I know that's kind of random, but yeah, Tao
But it's
Lore
the oldest one, so you have a reason for that. So
yeah,
so it's all good. Okay, and I also see that you have a packet right now. You get 25, you get what is it, PDFs, as well as a couple of other things for a very small amount. Tell us about that.
Yeah, for $25, I got like 43 PDFs just about like health and wellness and alternative history, or actual history, I guess you could say. And then I got the instructional breathwork videos. And then some of the books are in audiobook as well. So I have those. And then I did a cover for a book, the Huahu Ching. I read that in audiobook. That's in there as well. That's one of my favorite books, if not my favorite book. So yeah, so it's like 5 or 6 audiobooks, 43 PDFs, and like 20 videos just for like breath work, and also tantra, like tips and stuff. But yeah, so that's $25, and then I have like another tier of PDFs, like more recent stuff. The Anima Man series is like the Bloodline series, and that's 25 for 4 books. So all in all, if you get all 52 books or PDFs, they're all 30 pages or less. If you get them all, it comes with the audiobooks and the instructional videos as well. It's $100, but there's also a $50 tier. And then, yeah, I got some merch, man. What is it? Taylor Durden /Printful.me. So Taylor Durden /Printful.me has all my my merch, my hoodies and t-shirts, and all the stuff for the summer gear too as well.
Okay, cool. Okay, so we got that. Which one did you want to do? The DNA one, the ancient DNA editing?
That one
that
might
the
have
one?
the Atlantis thing in it. That's what I'm thinking. Like,
It
but
may. I think it
I
might.
think that one, yeah. Even though I
Yes.
know people, the Masons and Moors one, I feel like is getting way more traction. But
Oh man, the Masons and Moors. Yeah, let's do that one, because that right there sent me on I literally started studying, because when stuff makes me go and start looking things up, you hit you got me. That's what I love. I love that kind of stuff. So let me go in ahead and do this one then. And let's open this up and get the sound going. Pull it all the
yeah,
way here.
it's a tedious thing trying to put it together, because I mean, like, it, right? But then if you don't just like know it, then you're just gonna come off as like we was Kangs, That's all people are gonna, it's funny.
Just believe me, man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that's I think that's part of why I get upset with the whole Cherokee thing, because I'm Cherokee. I'm Cherokee. And so what it made me do, I was like, I don't have to explain myself. I don't have to tell you how I know who I am. Y'all don't ask nobody who's a Japanese to go prove who they are. I know who I am. So I just sort of quietly just started going and looking up all of my stuff. I've got my mama, my mama's mama, my mama's mama's mama. Then I got her mama and daddy. That's one, two, three. It's five of them that I've got. I'm already down to five. Now I'm going through all these censuses, and my point is, if I don't go and look it up, it's gonna be because we Cherokee, we just are, and we was all kings, we was all queens. That's
Yeah,
not how I want it. I need that. I need, I know who I am, but it does help when you get it in writing, when you go and you can find it yourself, and you
yeah,
can look
yeah,
it up. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this is
yeah.
who I am. I know who I am.
And it's like I don't, I don't, obviously I don't agree with Nick Fuentes on a lot of things, but as far as him, because a lot of people be like, it's the, you know what I'm saying, it's the tiny hats or whatever. I feel like as far as his delivery and how tactful he is, I feel like he's really done his research on who these people are individually. I'm not spending that much time, honestly. I'm not inspired to
Me
spend that
either.
much time on figuring out which one is which, And so, but I mean, if that's what he wants to do, that's cool, and I gotta respect it that he really put his time in to be like, okay, yeah. I mean, in a broad sense, yeah, I know that was going on. I don't know all these people; they all parasites. I don't feel like I need to know one from another, but I do feel like when somebody does, like, that's why he has traction, is because he really went in and was like, this is who's who, this person's doing this is the timeline of it, and it's hard to argue with that once you got the timeline and all the characters involved. It's hard to
That's what I
debunk
love.
it. Yeah.
That's what I love. That's the only way that I can honestly rock something out. I can't just go based on, okay, this is the theory. All right, well then I need to unpack that. I have to unpack everything. Anything that's brought to me, I have to unpack it. I don't necessarily discount it anymore. Some long ago when someone would bring something to me, I would say, especially when I was in Christendom, I would really get upset because I'm like, no, the Bible says this and that's all. The Bible says it and that's it and that settles it. And then after a minute, I was like, yo, you already know this. You already know that's not true, because the more you study on your own, absent of your pastor or some leader or something, you're pulling up and finding things out on your own. And I've always been taught, even when in Christendom, I was taught, Bible dictionary, study tools, and all this other stuff. But my thing was, I would have to throw in world history because I love history, and that's the way that I've been able to pull myself out of these things, is by studying the world history, also looking at the timeline of when a story was told. The example that I mostly use just to substantiate this is when you would see the passage in the Bible where it would say that, it's easier for a camel to get, through an eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into heaven. Well, Needles was a place, and the camels used to have to squat all the way down to get up under these little needle eyes to prevent the enemy from coming in. They had these small little slats. And so the camel would have to squat down with all of their wares that they were toting and slide under. But it was a very difficult task, almost impossible. So that is my point to saying, you have to know the context and the information that you're getting. You got to know the timeline. You got to know the people. You've got to know the customs. You've got to know what they were doing and what was important at that time. If you don't know all of that, then sit it out until you get that part together. Right.
Oh yeah.
And so that's why I appreciate what you're doing. And that's why it always makes my head swim when I'm seeing, which I'm like, this is a young cat. You guys, this is a young cat. Most of my folks here, we are. And what I love about the remnant that is with me is that we all want to learn, even though we're older, and all of us are real straight shooters. We have sometimes where I'll have folks come on and we'll play games and stuff. But everybody here, they're all straight shooters. And that's what I love about people who are over 50. Those of us who are over 50 and the ones who really are into just not going for the BS, we adore people like you. We champion and sort of cheer you guys on because you guys are doing the work. That makes all the difference.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely for me. Yeah, like it's when it comes to who you want to, I guess, ride for or ride together with. I think that you know, that generation. Just, I mean, it's people in every generation that I do, I can admire, but I feel like the previous generations, the people that were actually thinkers, that actually had abstract thought and questioned things, and didn't get caught up in the drugs because that happened a lot. I feel like with because it wasn't maybe it's some a lot of stuff came in waves that people didn't see coming. Like different epidemics of drugs, and the ones that endured all of that and still have sanity. I'm like, man, you went through all of that, man. You're still here. Like, I gotta do what I can as far as for my generation to be, helping out. I don't want to be a detriment, because what y'all went through and what the generations previous went through, and and I feel bad for the kids or the younger generations beyond me. I'm like, damn,
Oh man.
you're going through some shit too. You under
Ooh.
attack in your own way.
Ooh, they have games literally called brain rot, and that's sad, and that's exactly what it's doing. So let me go ahead and get this going for us. Here you go. Go ahead and set it up for us. Let's go.
The hidden connection between the Masons and the Moors. There are many ways to spell Moor. It stays pretty consistent across languages. It always means bricklayer or maker. It always translates to mason. A freemaurer or freemoor is a freemason. Obviously, mason means maker or builder. Mason means machine or machine or wall. Look, stone wall builders. It becomes obvious in the etymology. Mason or macon means mason, which brings us to Ptah or Yaphet, Japheth, the deity of making, the supposed source of masonry. The history is inverted. Human life came from America and into Europe after a reset. The oldest DNA is from Aboriginal Americans, virtually non-existent in Africa. E1B1 made its way into Black America through Black colonists and Hamites. R made its way into Black America through Japhethites. The Scots are originally from America, and they don't look like how we are told. Shemites, Hamites, and Japhethites made their way into Europe, and these are dark-skinned Japhethites. Look. Hamites were the first to go into Africa, especially into the interior. Africa was never for man. Africa was reserved for cryptids, chimeras, animals, and homunculus. This is Mitzrayim, also known as Kemet, or Chemet because it was built by Hamites, but it was later usurped by Japheth. Look, Japheth had already left the Americas and taken over Asia before the reset. Genghis Khan and his horde were a mix between Canaan and Japheth. Japheth spreads everywhere and deceives everybody. G and Y are interchangeable, and Gog can also be pronounced Gao. And we see the Japhetic Asian connection in Mali. Look, when Japhethites took over Asia, they ran the original Asians into Africa. Nobody is an aboriginal of Africa. They come from Asia, Europe, and the Americas. Most so-called Africans didn't arrive until around 1500 after the reset. Civilization was highly advanced, and most, if not all, adults are wiped out in these resets. As the Japhethites took over, it pushed the Hamites and Shemites deeper into the interior of Africa. The children had to establish what they could with whatever knowledge of self was in their blood. That's why Africa is the least developed area. They eventually reached the Middle East and usurped the Shemites of the area. Saudi Arabia was part of Edom and thus Shemitic. Edom is Bakar, the firstborn, the older brother of Jacob. Mecca is Bakar and was taken over by Japheth. Edom is also Rome, and Rome is taken over by Chittim, an extension of Japheth. Gog spread everywhere throughout the realm. In some, Japetus or Japheth is banished to Tartarus from the Americas. There they usurped the Shang and pushed the people out. Japheth manipulated his own seed. He spliced some of his offspring's DNA to merge with the fallen. Japheth then moves west, eventually taking Rome through his offspring Chittim, establishing lineages like the Rothschilds and the Habsburgs as front people, collapsing Europe with the Napoleonic Wars, and precipitated the revolutions that led to the extirpation of the original Europeans. And the same thing was done in the Americas once the mutated Japhethites doubled back, taking the culture and the identity of all the aboriginals in the process, whether it's Pretendians, Europeans, Asians, Egyptians, you name it. The hidden connection between the Masons and the Moors. There are many ways to spell Moor. It stays pretty consistent across languages. It always means bricklayer or maker.
All right. Tell us
Yeah.
about that.
Oh man, there's a woman named Dr. Tracy McCarthy.
Mhm.
Well, like again, I always got to start with Pharaoh, man, at Pharaoh's house, because I took Dr. Africa's naturopath course in like 2011,
Mhm.
and he was the moderator for the course, and he put me on to Yafith doing, corrupting his own seed. And
Mhm.
he's a really good teacher because he doesn't just spoon feed you anything. He's
Mhm.
always gonna like he'll give you some input that will just like pique your interest, and then you gotta go figure it out. He's not gonna just like tell you. So like, um, and maybe I'm not the best teacher in that way because I'm just like take this stuff shoveling at you, but like he he's really good in that way. I guess he's teaching the teachers,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
he so he told me about Japheth corrupting his seed because he had these potasodes, and it's like he got like 100 of them. I think they're on like the archive.org website.
Okay.
Pharaoh's House potasodes, and they're free. And so one of them, I think, is like the 30th or maybe 28th or something. He's talking about that, and he never gave me much detail on it. I was just like, man, I want to know. I want to know what is happening with that. And
Uh-huh.
so then, I just did my digging, and I feel like it just was to no avail. I wasn't getting much detail. It's like the whole Yaffa thing is so hidden. You get all this shit about Ham, you get all this shit about Shem, but you get like nothing about Yaffa. He's just like just hidden and just benefiting and just like the lost son, and no one. He's just like mums the word, and I'm just like, man, I
Mhm.
can't find anything about him. I mean, other than Gog and Magog, being like Satan's spawn or whatever, basically taking being part of the revelations, all of that.
Mhm.
You don't really hear much about, and that's not even like implied directly. He's just saying Gog and Magog. They're not even saying like this is Japheth. They're just saying that his descendants, but they're not getting like the whole backstory of like how they came to be the way they were.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, man, how does this happen? So I already had the questions to ask, and then so I'm just searching for it, and I ran into some guy that made the, I don't even know, he was like completely the other side of the spectrum. He was like, we always get this Shem centric history, and because he was like a so-called white person, and he's like, let's get into like our history, and like Iapetus, and Japheth being like the father of white people in Greece, and well, all we done for the world, like that was his premise. But I was just like, yeah, tell me about this Iapetus shit. I want to know because I already know what what I mean. I already have my way I'm looking at it. And so he made that connection for Iapetus and Japheth for me, and
Mhm.
then that like rotated into Dr. Tracy McCarthy's work and her connection with Iapetus, Japheth, and Ptah, and I was like, okay, boom, yeah, this is all here now. Now
Mhm.
it's all there. All the dots is connected now, and there's no
Mhm.
discrepancies.
Yeah. Yeah. Ronnie and I, the gentleman I was mentioning earlier, he and I did a whole series on um on a lot of stuff. We got a lot of heavy stuff over on the other channel. And we talked about the actual lineage of Noah's, offspring, and uh broke down each and every area that they covered. So, Ham and Shem and, Japheth or Japheth, the areas that they covered. And the one thing that I noticed about Japheth and all of his, cohorts, they are the biggest identity thieves on the planet. They are everybody. They're literally everybody.
Yeah,
It's like seeing, Cleopatra with the violet, because she has violet eyes. Elizabeth Taylor had those purple eyes. Her real eyes were violet colored. She was Cleopatra. Let that sink in. All of those kinds of things, Japheth has always done everything. They were both the cowboys and the Indians.
yeah,
Okay. They are now well, they are now the Egyptians and the other side. They're
yeah.
everybody. They're everything. They are
The
I
Iranians and the Iranians and the Israelis.
they are everybody. And it's like it's almost like people feel like they are it's like they are the ones that nobody ever know about. But when you stop and sit back, you're like, whoa, no. No, that's them too. That's them too, and that's them, and that's them, and that's them, and it's all them. Everything is them. From the 1940, 48, and all the Balfour stuff, and the before then, and the 1700s purchasing pieces of land and trying to seam it together and make it into something that it wasn't. They purchased so much land over there in that little bitty thumb shaped area. They purchased it, which nullifies the biblical context of having the land given to you by the Most High. It said, "I'm going to
Yeah.
give you this land. I'm going to take you, and I'm going to put you back together again, and I'm going to put you where I want you, and I'm going to show you." But he didn't say it needed to have a deed. But Japheth as a deed. They started collecting little pieces of it from the 17s and 18s. And by the time it was all culminated in the 1940s, they had their own place that they were going to go back to. You can't go back to someplace you ain't never been, baby. It don't work like that. In order for you to go back, baby, you had to be there. And if you're going to come back home, why we got to declare that it's your home? If you leave and go away for 3 weeks, you don't have to have a big old party on the front line and tell everybody, "Hey, I'm back. This is home for me, y'all." And like, what's wrong with this dude? What's wrong with this chick? You just left. It's yours. You don't have to tell us about it. But if it's not yours, you're going to have to make a really big fanfare. You're going to have to prove, "I'm not lying. This is mine. No, we were here. No, we weren't. We weren't up there. We weren't in Poland. We weren't over there on that side." Don't listen to them. They're liars. This is ours. See, it's ours. And then this place has now become their place. This place has now become their place. I don't want to get into the whole, king and the queen and Rome and all that, because all roads generally lead back to Rome. And again, that is who we're talking about. They're everybody. They're everybody. Did we play did we play this one? The DNA editing? Did we play that?
No, we didn't.
All right. I want to do that. Let's do this.
Human DNA was edited. There are cyclical resets. The flood was a total reset. All human life started in the Americas. 3 main bloodlines survived and populated much of the world, but there are many equivalents or Noah parallels throughout the realm. After the resets, there are violators like the bloodline of Canaan that settle in lands that they are not designed for. And Japheth, his bloodline spread throughout the realm, dwelling in the lands or tents of Shem. Japhethites usurped the Shemitic culture and by doing so absorbed the servants of Canaan. The Japhetic Canaanite crossbreeding produces the R haplogroup. This was a much more advanced time. The Canaanite city of Ai is the Silicon Valley of today. Japheth spliced his seed with fallen angels and animal DNA. Remnants of the animal admixture are expressed to this day, some cases more severe than others. Japheth is the Greek Iapetus, the father of Prometheus. Look. Prometheus and Lucifer are both fallen light bearers that alter the human experience. Japheth and Iapetus are also pra-Yapati. The giants that Japheth and Canaan crossbred with are from the parts unknown from here to the north. This is the Titan lineage. This is the original Mount Olympus. Iapetus and the Titans lose to the Olympians and are pushed into Tartarus. Look, Grand Tartaria, Tartarus. This is what brings the R haplogroup into Asia. Modern-day Africans are actually native Asians that got ran out by the Japhethite mutants. And much of the migration into Africa happened 500 years ago. Eventually, the R haplogroup also made it into Africa. Egypt is Japheth. Egypt is Japheth, not Mizraim. Turks, Greeks, and Ottomans are Japhethites. Look. Once the phenotypes congealed in Asia, they re-entered America from the east. That's why the Cherokee are the Tsaraki. These Japhethites bred with Edomites to create Rome, or Caesars, or Kaisars, or Tsars. That's why Jersey is Nova Khazaria, and DC is Rome. Look, Chittim is Japheth. This chimeric bloodline spread throughout the earth. And of course, Gog and Magog come from this bloodline. Mount Safan was their launch pad for intercepting the source signal. Olympus is Mount Safan. It is the connection point for the fallen, the Watchers in the north. Look, makes more sense now. It's a lodestone communication point, like the stone Jacob used for reception. That's when he saw Jacob's ladder, or the tree of life. The connection to the axis mundi. These magnetic stones, or structures or towers made of them, connected with the magnetic center. Lucifer supposedly wanted to go to Mount Safan. This is why Microsoft is stationed where it is, part of the gates keeping. as you can see, because Yapatos is the lord of the programs or demons, divas. These were the parts unknown until the 1890s. The land of the giants. Philistia is in Canaan, aka the west coast of America. The land of the fallen, taken over by the followers of Baal, Hadad, becoming the Amorite land of Amaru, Amurika, getting ready to reset once again. Hundreds of years ago.
Wow, man. That was good. That's good stuff. And I tell you what, when you're watching it and you've seen it the first time, stuff goes over your head. You watch it back again. And when you guys start doing it, you'll see exactly what I mean. Once you go over, and if you guys don't mind, I want everybody to please go over to his YouTube channel. I'm going to put his YouTube channel here. And I just want everybody to go and please join and please, please, please support his work because you need to. It's not a lot of folks that get good support when they're doing good work. And I also think that it's sometimes people are doing the good work, but they let you think you're not getting support. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think that makes sense. They don't tell you that you're getting good support because they sort of throttle that. So let me cut this. I'm going to put this over here, but I want you guys to go and hang out with him. Please do. Okay, so Sandy says, so were the Mormons correct when they said Independence, Missouri is Jerusalem?
I mean, it could very well be. I mean, as far as like where the people of Jerusalem stretch to, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, the Mormons themselves they're all the beehive thing. They're Masonic. You know, at least I see people argue about this all the time. You know, they say that Smith wasn't, but Brigham Young was. One way or another, they became once they went to Utah, they became a Masonic lodge. Basically, their whole thing is the beehive. You know, Masonic imagery and everything. So I don't know. And then the name Mormon. I mean, I know people make the connection, Mormon. So I mean, so they have such a Mason or Masonic expression that. I'd assume that whoever was the king clone or the queen clone put the original ones on game early on.
Well, listen, I appreciate you for being here. We've been rocking for about 2 hours and 17 minutes. Time really honestly does fly when you're having fun. And I tell you, I don't want to abuse your grace by hanging out with me. I appreciate you. And I do want to ask you, will you consider coming back again?
Oh yeah, definitely. I was about to say, like, yeah, I mean, we could always just run it back. So whenever you got time,
let's run it back. If you want, you can come back next Friday and we'll do it again. I think this is awesome. If you want to come back, I really feel like it's important to have you come back sooner than later because I don't want the information to be so spread apart that people aren't going to get it. I really like to bring individuals to the channel that will help provoke thought. And, it doesn't necessarily mean that all of us are always going to agree. Everybody in the chat does not agree with everything that I believe. We all respect each other, and some of them I've gotten to know personally. But we respect one another and we respect each other's differences where we can still have cohesive and healthy conversations that will, answer, as we said earlier, those whys. And so, yeah, I'd love to have you come back. Maybe if you're available very soon, next Friday, it would be awesome for you to come back. I'll make the time too.
I'm usually free on Fridays, so that'd be smooth.
All right. Well, let's do it again next Friday. And what I'd like for you to do is, if you have StreamYard, please click the button and allow your folks to come over where they can, watch this as well at the same time. It helps your channel, it helps my channel, and it helps all of our people find us in concert together. And that's really what it's all about. So if you want to do that and you have StreamYard, you want to click that button, you will have my permission to click it. A lot of people say, well, why do you want to come to somebody else's channel and click the button and share it with your people? Because you should share with your folks where you are. Yeah, you should. Your people ought to know where you are. And I appreciate you for being here. Before we get ready to go, is there anything else that you would like to add or share with the folks that are hanging out over here with us today? I've already put your YouTube channel in the chat. And yeah, what's good?
My sister is based in Atlanta. She does a camping. I guess you could say like it's like a camping company in a sense, but it's all like breathwork based and everything. It's called Connected Camping, and they do like several events in the Atlanta area, and then I think they do some abroad. I think they're doing one like in Costa Rica soon or not whatnot. But that's a really good place, I feel like, to meet people on a physical level. They get a couple hundred people sometimes to come out to these camping events, and people just do breath work, and they do like relay races and talent shows and all of that, and people just people that are in this vein of thinking can kind of get together on a physical level. And Atlanta's an easy airport to get into. So I mean, I don't know how things are going to be in the future as far as travel, but if you can, um, I know we're coming up on the camping season. So Connected Camping, my sister, uh, she has a she's a part of the company. It's not like it's just hers, but yeah, there you go. Connected Camping.
I
Yeah.
like that. Oh, that is awesome. So let's just see here. This is 2025 season, which means that they'll probably have the next season 7 is here. This is awesome. So it says after 6 years, we realized that we climbed the mountain that we once thought was impossible, and then realized there was a whole range behind it. That's good stuff. Season 7 is about embracing new horizons, getting a little lost, and finding even more of ourselves along the way. That is exceptional. They've got the pre-sale tickets that are available right now. It's April 24th, 2026. They have a limited amount of pre-sale tickets left, and they're going to go really fast. So I'm going to put the link to this in the chat, even for after the show. I'll leave it there so that if anybody else is interested, they will be able to go. I think that's good. Reconnecting with nature is something that we all need to do. And in tandem with that, I do know that there in Atlanta is one of my favorite botanical gardens. For those who know me, know that I love botanical gardens. No matter where I've lived, that's what I love. But they have one of my favorite. They have two there in the Atlanta area, but that's one of my favorites is out there where your sister is. So here you guys, you see this Connected Camping. The pre-sale tickets are available right now. They have September 2026 for Costa Rica, and then they also have July 10th through 12th in Atlanta again. So they've got a really nice, it looks like an outstanding calendar of events to go. And you'll also find their about page with the link that I've just given you all. So please, 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 if it's not for you, maybe it's for somebody that you know or love that you think that would be able to benefit from this. And I think it's great to get into nature. I really do. I go in my backyard and I literally hug trees. I know it sounds crazy, but I do. I take my shoes off and I go right over to this really big tree that we have in the back, and I'll just hug it or I'll lean up against it. It's so good to reconnect with nature. And I'm so glad that we had the opportunity to share this with you guys. Mr. Tao, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you very much for bringing all of your enlightenment and your information. What else do you have to share with us before you go?
And that's it. I mean, I guess I'll be here next Friday if
Next Friday.
Lord willing. So
Yes, that's what. No, wait, let me get back on the screen. Yeah, what we used to say back in the day. Yeah, Lord willing, if the creek don't rise. Yeah, yeah, if the
okay.
creek don't rise. All right, so everybody, I want to thank all of you guys for hanging out with us tonight, and thank everybody who's been so supportive in the time that I've been away, sending me messages, sending me emails, sending out, things even in my mail. So I'm going to appreciate you guys and tell you right now that I really do appreciate you for that. Everybody, please take care of yourselves because, as you know, things that are going on around us, we're not going to necessarily focus on them. But remember what I always say that if you don't take care of yourself, ain't nobody else going to do it. So take care of yourself first, and then you can reach around and take care of somebody else. Until we all see each other again soon, y'all be blessed, and we'll see Mr. Taylor with us next week at the same time. You want to hook up at the same time?
Yeah, that'd be good for me.
That'd be good for me too. It'll stretch me, get my old tail back into the
Yeah,
back
if you
in the
want to go an
business.
hour, if you want to go an hour earlier, that's fine too.
Yeah, we can do an hour earlier. So if you want to do, so that'll be like what 7 on the nose your
Yeah,
time, and
that's
then what
fine.
9 my time.
Yeah, it's good with
Okay.
me.
All right, that works. I appreciate you. Thanks again for being here, folks. You all take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
I've always been a unique person, you know what I mean? Sort of laid back in a way, but very adamant and very passionate about what I believe. I think a lot of times that sort of throws people off because they don't expect me to have the mindset or the process of thought that I do. And so when you come in to watch my channel, you may hear a myriad of thoughts and ideas that could be different from others. What I want you to do is just sit back, like, share, and subscribe. Hey everyone, it's me, Felicia, of the Lockhart Perspective and Headlines with a Voice. I want to tell you a little secret. This is what I used to do, because I don't do it anymore. I would go to the store, buy the barbecue sauce, pour it inside of a bowl, put a whole bunch of different spices, a dash of brown sugar, a dash of maple, and a dash of mustard, stir it all around, and everybody would be like, oh my gosh, this is the best, this is the best. But I was exhausted after all of that, and a lot of times I couldn't remember how many dashes of what I put in it. But I don't have to do that anymore, because now I just go to Judge Joe Brown's website and I order his 3-pack of bottled barbecue sauce. It is by far the best, and I do mean the best barbecue sauce I've ever eaten. And when you go to his website and you order his 3-pack, you'll see exactly what I mean. Head on over to jjbbbbq.com and order Judge Joe Brown's barbecue sauce. You'll be glad you did, and you're going to tell me about it. I know you will.
Lockhart Perspective.